laws, on disrespecting, the will of the international community on imposing human rights, the rights of people to live in peace.
Who are you talking about here? You're talking about Israel?
I'm talking about Israel, of course, because what's happening in this country and this region are crimes of war. I don't know if we have ever witnessed an army that is demolishing a whole village. After the end of the war, where you see contractors coming in and demolishing churches, mosques, attacking the religious symbols of all the society and, actually eliminating every aspect of life, eliminating a history, a civilization with its symbols. So no, this cannot be accepted.
Now, the Israelis apologized of those incidents when Christian symbols were attacked. And they say, look, we're protecting our people. People in the north of our country, they have to live in fear. That's not acceptable.
I said it before, an incident can happen. A collateral damage in a war can happen. But when it is in a repetitive manner, a soldier, can insult the Christ on the church. But an army bombarding a church or a mosque repeatedly until total destruction, this is not an error of a soldier. When this happens repeatedly in a war, this is very significant. And again, we are calling for a settlement of the conflict. We, the Lebanese, are able to live in peace and harmony in the region with Israel and with all our neighbors, We are capable to do it very easily. The question are the Israelis and not the people here. I'm not talking about the Jews. I'm talking about the Israeli politicians, the Israeli government. Are they willing to have real peace? And this will have to go through tri-phase process, which is we start first by a truce, then peace, and then normalization. You cannot impose normalization before you have an end of the war.
Thank you for listening to The Interview. You'll find more in-depth conversations on The Interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts, including episodes with the World Health Organization's Hanan Balki, Ali Bahraini, Iranian ambassador to the UN, and the Syrian minister, Hind Kabawat. Until the next time, bye for now.
From the BBC, that was The Interview.
Good morning, Manitoba. It is Friday, June 19th. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcy Marcusa. Let's say hello to our team this morning. Abby Adiemi is our technical producer. Darren Morash is our YouTube live stream producer. And May McKillop is our show director this morning. And Heather Wells is here with news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a Winnipeg organization says while a growing number of people are in need of housing in this city, they cannot be rushed into a place of their own. The Mama Wichita Center's Wichuwin program is helping 30 to 50 people every week. They work with private landlords and social housing providers. We're going to hear from a woman whose life changed because of this program. That's coming up. And it is Northern Manitoba's longest-running annual drag show. Flin Flon hosted a show recently with local drag kings, queens, and monarchs to a sold-out crowd. We're going to hear from the organizer in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Well, coming up today on Information Radio, Reclaiming and Reconnecting. We're going to learn about efforts to teach Indigenous languages across Canada from someone who is doing the teaching. And we're going to head back to the marsh. I am so excited because it's tadpole time. Coming up, Katrina Fraze will update us on the Fort Wide Alive pond sample that we've been checking in on once spring began, and now we're kind of heading into summer here. As well, there is a new hockey league taking inspiration from the PWHL and Winnipeg's own Keystone Curling. We will hear more from the founders of the Prairie Pride Hockey League and what they are hoping to accomplish. As well, the RCMP recently seized $3 million in contraband cigarettes in southeastern Manitoba. An expert in this industry says that this is only continuing to grow and it's fueling organized crime in Canada. We'll talk to him about his concerns later on Information Radio. Taking a quick look at current conditions here in the city of Winnipeg, sitting at 13 degrees in downtown Winnipeg. Today we are looking at a high of 18. For stories, weather updates, music, and more, stay with us here on Information Radio.
Jen Harper had a dream that would mark the beginning of an incredible journey in the beauty industry. Jen will tell you how she turned $500 and a passion for makeup into helping Indigenous people finally be seen in the biggest makeup store in the country.
We have this saying at Cheekbone, we believe representation will save lives.
Q with Tom Power, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Kate McKenna. We're expecting a decision today in the sexual assault trial of Canadian businessman Frank Stronach. The 93-year-old initially faced charges spanning decades. The CBC's Jamie Strachan is following the case.
When the trial of Frank Stronach began in February, the founder of the auto parts giant Magna International was facing 12 counts related to 7 female complainants, including sexual assault. By the time it concluded months later, only 5 charges related to 3 women remained. All 7 complainants testified, and although most told similar stories, their credibility and memory was challenged under often blistering cross-examination by Stronach's lawyer. The charges in this case date back 50 years, spanning from 1977 to 1990, a major factor, says lawyer Linda O'Brien, who has been watching the case.
Blurry memories, faded memories, not remembering exactly what happens, because at no point during a sexual assault is the complainant thinking, I'm going to be cross-examined on this someday, I better remember this point and that point.
Over the course of the trial, the Crown withdrew a number of charges, acknowledging they couldn't be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Meanwhile, Justice Anne Malloy said near the end she would be finding Stronach not guilty on 2 charges. Much of this should have been anticipated, says lawyer Adam Weisberg, who has also been following the case.
The role of the Crown Attorney is to constantly assess the case for a reasonable prospect of conviction. In this case, it seems, though, there's problems with several of the witnesses, some of which had to have been foreseen in some way.
Stronach was in court every day during the trial but did not testify. Regardless of Justice Malloy's decision, Stronach is set to face another sexual assault trial next year involving 6 complainants. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is facing an immediate threat to his leadership this morning. High-profile regional mayor Andy Burnham has won a seat in the British Parliament, clearing a direct path to challenge the Prime Minister. Anna Cunningham has the details from London.
And I do hereby declare that Andy Burnham is duly elected.
Andy Burnham winning the Makerfield riding in northwestern England overnight.
People here have voted for change.
It was a reversal of trend. Britons not voting in the populist hard-right Reform Party as they had done in recent local elections.
Shows that you can beat hate and division and anger and despair,
says Burnham's parliamentary colleague Lisa Nandy. But this is not about one MP. It's really about the top job in British politics. Burnham making it no secret that he is ready to challenge the Prime Minister and party leader Keir Starmer. Surveys suggest Starmer is now the most unpopular British Prime Minister ever.
To everything there is a season, and I think right now we need a transition to something new,
believes Labour MP Patrick Hurley. After 14 years of British Conservative rule, Labour supporters had hope in July 2024. But a number of policy U-turns and questions about Starmer's judgment, including giving Peter Mandelson, a friend of Jeffrey Epstein's, the job of UK ambassador to the US, has dampened all that. Starmer, fresh from the G7, remains defiant.
If there is a contest, then yes, I will run, I will stand, and I've said repeatedly, I'm not going to walk away from that.
This is now a waiting game, and no one is quite sure if the door to number 10 Downing Street remains firmly shut to a new Prime Minister or now slightly ajar. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
The House of Commons has closed for the summer, rising a day early after a frantic final push. Members of Parliament will not return to their seats until the fall. The government passed 21 bills in the 14 weeks that it sat this year. Janice McGregor joins us now from our Parliamentary Bureau for more. Janice, the end of the sitting saw the Liberals really flex their new majority power. Is that causing concern on the Hill?
Kate, when the story of this Parliament's written, there's going to be two acts, right? The first, where the government had to negotiate with other parties, cut deals, make compromises. It often meant going slow or not getting their agenda through at all. But since the Liberals secured their majority earlier this year, it is a whole new House. The Bloc Québécois House leader yesterday accused the Liberals now of working as if they're the only party. And after a home stretch of late evening sittings and time-limited debates, some 10 bills got royal assent this week. The government expedited, the opposition would say rammed, an awful lot through. And as for complaints that this hurry-up offense compromises the democratic process, Government House Leader Stephen McKinnon's not terribly sympathetic to cries for more time to be spent in debate.
The problem is all of that time gets chewed up with these dilatory and other tactics that the opposition parties like to play. They are frankly games.
Conservatives particularly sensitive to how rarely the Prime Minister's turning up for question period this spring. Opposition Leader Pierre Poilievre vowed to fight on in the final Bear Pit session yesterday.
No, we do not plan a restful summer. We plan all summer long to fight against the Liberal recession, Liberal inflation, the rising Liberal cost of living, and the rising Liberal crime crisis in our streets.
So MPs have headed to the airport, but the government still has work to do.
Yeah, even between now and Canada Day, we're waiting on a major submarine procurement announcement. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is staring at a July 1st deadline to submit her province's pipeline proposal to the Major Projects Office. And just yesterday, the Mexican Economy Secretary announced there will be a virtual meeting between the North American trade deal partners on July 1st. There's no longer an expectation all three are going to be ready to renew CUSMA, but negotiations continue in earnest to make as much headway as they can with the Trump administration.
All right. Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor joining us from Ottawa. Canada has passed new legislation that will allow banned pesticides to be used in certain cases. Bill C-30 gives Ottawa the right to greenlight chemicals that are deemed to be in the best interest of national priorities. Marina von Stackelberg reports.
Well, I think it's pretty outrageous.
Dr. Trevor Hancock with the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment says the new pesticide rules give Mark Carney's cabinet broad authority to greenlight the use of any pesticide, even a pesticide that Health Canada has decided is unsafe or it already banned.
Even if it's been found to have unacceptable environmental risks on the grounds that there are economic security or food security concerns. But those aren't defined, they're left very vague. So what you've got is cabinet overruling science.
But the government says ministers will only do it in exceptional circumstances and under specific conditions. Stephen McKinnon is the House Leader.
We would not use these measures and cannot use these measures if there are health hazards attached to them. And beyond that, I would refer you to the Minister of Health on that issue.
But Health Minister Marjorie Michel would not provide CBC News an interview. Lobby records show she and her staff met regularly with CropLife, the lobby for the pesticide industry. Her office says it's her responsibility to consult with agricultural organizations. CropLife applauds the new law. It says it allows farmers to be more productive, adapt to climate and pest pressures, and stay globally competitive. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
National Indigenous Peoples Day is this Sunday, and for Labrador's Innu community, the lead-up to the day is being marred by a dispute with the province. An argument over the nation's history has led to the cancellation of a cultural exhibit of ancestral objects. The CBC's Andrea Maguire has more.
That was a very strong slap-in-the-face message.
Shahajit Innu First Nation Chief Eugene Hart says the Newfoundland and Labrador provincial government owes the Innu of Labrador an apology after questioning the Innu's knowledge of their own history.
It shouldn't be this way. We were actually doing plans for Indigenous Day, and this message came in.
The dispute concerns a new exhibition of Innu artifacts slated to open on National Indigenous Peoples Day. The province wanted the exhibit to say Innu lived in Labrador for just 300 years, at odds with an exhibit timeline pointing to a presence of thousands of years. Jody Ashini is Innu Nation's cultural guardian.
They really backed me in a corner and told me we can't display our timeline. It went against everything that Innu people have believed.
On Wednesday, Innu Nation announced the exhibit was cancelled. That organization represents the Innu of Labrador. Grand Chief Simon Pokawe accused the province of erasing Innu history.
Archaeology is seldom something that gives you very sharply defined lines of truth and falsehood.
Anthony Jenkinson, an archaeologist living in Shahajid, is surprised by the province's position, since there is no clear academic consensus.
A lot of it has to do with interpretation.
CBC has sent numerous requests for comment to the Newfoundland and Labrador government. They did not reply by our deadline. Andrea McGuire, CBC News, Shahajid, Labrador.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Kate McKenna. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in this morning for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on YouTube or anywhere on your CBC Listen app. Coming up on the show, language as a cornerstone of culture. We'll hear about ongoing efforts to bolster Indigenous language education across Canada. Also, immigration officials are under fire for suspending a number of people's citizenships after they were granted their certificates. We'll dig into that story. But first, we're hearing from the Forks on how they're marking the 30th Annual National Indigenous Peoples Day at the historic site. Stay with us. CBC's Heather Wells joins us now for a look at news headlines.
Good morning. Well, a Winnipeg woman says getting into stable housing changed her life, and she wants others to know help is on the way. 42-year-old Rachel Okamau says around 8 years ago, she started getting help from the Mama Wichita Center's Weechi Win program. She stopped drinking once she was housed. Now she works casually and has a family of her own. The Mama Wichita Center is trying to help 30 to 50 people every week find housing. So we're going to hear more about their programming coming up. And the president of sand mining company CO Silica says when the province holds a public inquiry into efforts by the former PC government to push through the first environmental license, it will show CO was the victim. Carla Devlin says she supports the process and believes even as an inquiry is in the works, the province can also consider a second license application from CO. Those stories and more coming up at 6:30.
Heather, I can't let you go before we talk about yesterday's Canada game at the World Cup. Oh my goodness.
You know what? We were going crazy in our house.
I can only imagine. 6 goals and a hat trick. I don't think that happens that often in soccer.
You know what? It doesn't. And it was Canada's first win in the World Cup as well. And it came with a horrific injury. Yeah. But yeah, it was just a game that had so much going on.
A lot going on. Yeah, we'll be waiting on updates about Ismail Kone after that broken leg. I know... here on the team, I'm going to ask Abby about this because I know Abby was watching that moment. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Hello and good morning to our Information Radio team. Darren Morash, our YouTube live stream producer, and Abby Adiemi, who I mentioned, is our technical producer. Abby, big soccer fan. You're a big Team Canada fan. What was that moment like for you watching Ismail go down?
I just looked on the positive side because when he was being stretched off the pitch, you see his look. He wasn't looking like horrible. He's like, I'm okay.
He was waving at the crowd.
I'm okay. You guys, we're going to win today. Give them 6 for me on my behalf. So I guess that's what happened. You know, for the injuries, we just had to exchange it for 6 goals.
It's a It's a good silver lining. You are here with a look at the weather forecast.
Well, Chloe, I'll tell you for southern Manitoba today, we're starting kind of cool, but we're going to be seeing showers this afternoon. So the showers we've not been getting lots of. It's definitely going to be coming our way around the lunch break period. We have unsettled mix of cloudy conditions, scattered showers across southern Manitoba today, while up north we're still seeing those cloud cover, and of course the fog has returned to the Churchill area this morning. For Winnipeg, it's mostly cloudy at this time. We're looking at temperatures hovering near 14 degrees as we climb to our daytime high of only 18 today. We're not touching 20 till maybe tomorrow and into Sunday. The wind's definitely going to be shifting, becoming north later in the day into the afternoon period, and that's when the showers would come. So during your lunch break, you might want to grab an umbrella because it's definitely going to come with some thunderstorms, and that's going to be the condition into the evening and overnight period. So prepare for that. Similar conditions across the south, but up north we're looking at sunshine in some parts of the central part of the province and cloudy conditions as you go towards the Churchill area with those foggy conditions. Right now, Winnipeg hovering near 14 degrees. We will get to 18 later.
All right. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
May McKillop is our show director this morning, also keeping an eye on the commute. Good morning.
Good morning, Chloe. So I got a call from Dan on a bike. He was biking along the Rapid Transit Trail, and he called with a tip. If you are commuting on a bike or walking and you're wanting to stop and get a coffee, he recommended that you hop by Bonnie Castle Park on Assiniboine, where Bike Winnipeg is hosting their coffee outside every Friday from 7 to 9. So thanks for that tip from Dan on a bike. Anything going on along your commute, whether you're walking, biking, busing, you can give me a call and I'll pass that message along. The number to call, 204-788-3093.
National Indigenous Peoples Day is coming up this weekend, and the Forks is hosting a day of free programming on Sunday to celebrate. Georgia Sigurdsson is with the Forks, and she joins us on the line now. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Lots planned for Sunday. Give us a quick rundown. What's going on?
Yeah, so we have a ton planned. So we have family-friendly free programming all day from starting at about 11 till 9 p.m., So we are starting off the day with a welcoming ceremony. We have the Wokotowin Powwow presented by Southern Chiefs Organization with support from the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. We're going to have an Indigenous handmade market and food vendors. We're going to have a drag show with the Bannock Babes. Pitaquay decked out at the skate park so people can bring their skateboards, shirts, or other wearable items. And then we're going to be customizing stuff with spray paint and stencils. Turtle Island games, so they're classic lawn games reimagined through an Indigenous lens. And then we have just a bunch of live entertainment. So we have two different stages, the 7th Generation stage and live music on the CN stage. So we're going to have a bunch of different Indigenous artists sharing music till about 9 p.m. that day.
Okay, full day of programming.
Yes, full day.
What's the biggest thing happening this year? What do you think is going to draw the most people?
I would say the powwow. I think for me personally, I've never been to a powwow before, so I know I'm super excited about that. And what better way to take in a cultural event like that than National Indigenous Peoples Day? So I'm super excited for that, and I hope a lot of people come down and check it out.
Why is it important for the Forks to be a part of the celebrations on Sunday?
Well, the Forks, of course, has been a meeting place for thousands of years. We like to celebrate and honor the history and culture of all the nations that came here before us. And we're also committed to a reconciliation action strategy. So we strive to be an accessible, safe, and welcoming place where First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people are heard, valued, and represented.
Where could people go to find more information on the programming?
For all of our information that's happening, including the 11 days of programming that are going to connect National Indigenous Peoples Day and Canada Day, people go to our website, which is at theforks.com.
All right. Georgia, personally, you mentioned that you've never been to a powwow, so that's going to be something exciting for you to experience.
Yes, of course.
What else are you most looking forward to?
I'm just looking forward to seeing everybody out here just honoring and celebrating this day together. I think it's such a great day on site. I'm hoping the weather's going to be nice. I'm hoping to see lots of different people, lots of family, friends connecting, and I hope everyone just enjoys all the programming we have planned.
Georgia, really appreciate you joining us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
That is Georgia Sigurdsson with The Forks. They are hosting free programming on Sunday for National Indigenous Peoples Day. Turning to some music, when an artist covers another musician's song, they have the chance to breathe new life into an old track. Numerous Indigenous artists have put their spin on popular songs over the years by reimagining them in their own languages, from Inuktitut to Cree and more. And when that happens, it's not just a translation, but a reclamation. To celebrate Indigenous History Month, CBC Music has put together a list of some of their favorite covers as reclaimed by Indigenous artists. Here is Reet with her cover of Dua Lipa's Levitating, which she wrote specifically for the Canadian Screen Award-winning show, North of North. That was Inuk musician Reet with her cover and translation of Dua Lipa's Levitating. You might have heard that one on the CBC show North of North. To read more about reclaimed covers by Indigenous artists, you can head to cbcmusic.ca. And this Sunday marks the 30th National Indigenous Peoples Day. It's a time to celebrate the traditions, cultures, and contributions of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. One of the ways people are connecting to those roots and to each other is by speaking and learning Indigenous languages. Falcon McLeod is an Indigenous language teacher with the Near North District School Board, the Kinumazwin Education Body, and Nipissing University. He's here to talk about his experience teaching others. Falcon, welcome to the show.
On in, Bojo.
Hello. Can you tell me a bit about your language and how you came to teach it?
Yeah, so Ojibwe is kind of like the umbrella language that we all kind of identify under. But more specifically, what I do and study is Nipissing dialect, which is from my home community of Nipissing. So I first started learning Ojibwe when I was about 5 years old. I was given my spirit name, Nishna Bemwin Bemwidot, which means the one who carries the Ojibwe language. And so at 5 years old, I felt motivated to learn Ojibwe. And once I got to high school, I realized that I wanted to make a career out of it. And so that's when I started focusing on becoming an educator was when I was in high school.
Do you remember some of those early words or phrases that you began with that kind of stick with you today?
Um, I learned a lot from my mom when I was 5 years old. She taught us a lot of things around the dinner table and animals and numbers. Um, and I remember learning through mistakes and stuff like that. And so, like we'd always say like "Gazoggin" to our mom, like "I love you." And one of my siblings said was trying to show off their Ojibwe, so they said "Zawamade." They were like "Zawamade, mama," and I kind of caught them, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" My sibling was like, "Oh, I was saying I love you, mom," and I was like, "No, you just said butter." Like, "Butter, mom."
I mean, a lot of people love butter, so
Yeah.
We've seen some recent examples of Indigenous languages being kind of brought into people's culture and day-to-day lives. I think about Robert Munch's books being translated into 4 Indigenous languages. There's a new language center opening up in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory in southern Ontario. How important are efforts like this to generate interest and bolster learning?
Yeah, so I have 2 young sons, and I noticed that whenever we put content on that has youth like themselves speaking Ojibwe or practicing, they are more interested in learning and more prone to incorporating into their speaking and stuff like that. So it's really great to have those books translated into Indigenous languages. And I didn't have things like Star Wars translated into Ojibwe when I was growing up, which would have encouraged me more to speak.
Yeah, there was a lot of local language speakers from here in Treaty One actually that were part of that translation of Star Wars. Such a incredible story. Falcon, in your experience, what do you think is the most effective way to teach language so that students retain it and use it daily?
I think the most effective way is to teach the grammatical structure of an Indigenous language, and then to teach the students the patterns. And then that way they can input their own kind of vocabulary that relates to themselves in their language speaking. So, like, they're talking about themselves and expressing themselves in the language opposed to just reading a script.
What are some of the challenges to teaching and learning an Indigenous language?
I think one of the toughest things that I've come across is just getting learners to trust in you as an educator and your path that you set forth for your students. There are some students that can just give themselves to the process that I've laid out for them, and they do really well, and the course becomes really easy. But those students that are hesitant and don't trust the process, they struggle to keep up with the others.
What do your students kind of tell you when you ask, why do you want to learn the language?
A lot of them say that they want to help reinvigorate the culture and revitalize the language. I think they recognize that our language is embedded in our worldview and that they want to keep that alive and carry it forth to the next generations.
I know the technology is it's getting better. It's starting to be a tool that folks can use to teach and learn Indigenous languages. What roles have you seen tech play?
So you read out that I teach at a bunch of places, and the only way I can do that is through technology. I post a lot of my lessons for free on YouTube, and it's in a structured format. I do a lot of my assignments on YouTube. And I do some courses asynchronously, where I'm not really interacting with students directly, but they're able to participate in the courses and learn the language to a decent degree.
Falcon, what more do you think needs to be done to support Indigenous languages across Canada?
I think because some of our Indigenous languages are so endangered, it's really imperative that we have speakers tell their stories in their language, and have them translate those later and record all of that. We can learn a great deal from that, and then it can trickle down to education and our students.
Falcon, I really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Miigwech.
That is Falcon McLeod, an Indigenous language teacher with the Near North District School Board, the Kinumazwin education body, and Nipissing University. We reached him in Sturgeon Falls, Ontario. Well, still to come on Information Radio, Canadians will soon be able to trade on prediction markets. Crystalie Ramlakan will join us from CBC's business desk to share more. As well, imagine you apply for Canadian citizenship and you get it, but months later, a letter arrives from the federal government and your citizenship is suspended. It's an awkward limbo that many now find themselves in. We will hear more about that story coming up on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Stay with us. Your CBC local news is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is 13 degrees. It's going to be a cool one. It's going to become cloudy, possibly wet as well. A good chance of showers, maybe even a thunderstorm this afternoon. Today's high is just 18. There is a growing number of people in need of housing, but one Winnipeg organization says they can't be rushed into a place of their own. The Mama Wichita Center's Weech You In program is helping 30 to 50 people a week. They work with private landlords and social housing providers. The organization also provides personalized supports to people once they're housed. Program Support Manager Marian McKenzie says they don't have to stop using substances, but they do have to be ready to make some changes.
We need to feed people, we need to calm that nervous system, and we need to create a place of safety and trust. And so we do that through food and connection and just letting people be before they actually share their story and then start to walk on a journey with us.
A Winnipeg woman says getting into stable housing actually changed her life. 42-year-old Rachel Okemau started getting help from Mama Wichita's program 8 years ago. She says she stopped drinking once she was housed and now works casually. The program is not officially part of Manitoba's Your Way Home strategy, but the work closely aligns with the Provincial Housing Initiative. Sand mining company CO Silica says it believes the province can review its license application at the same time it plans a public inquiry into efforts to push through an earlier application. Manitoba's Ethics Commissioner determined former PC government tried to get CO Silica's first license application approved after the party lost the election in 2023. Premier Wab Kinew then called a public inquiry. At the same time, the province is considering a second license application from CO Silica. Carla Devlin is CO Silica's president.
Our application is in process and it's under review, and that would be a predetermined decision. We hope that the process runs fairly and that a decision is made based on the science and the engineering.
Kinew's office says the decision on the new license application will be based on science. Just days after the U.S. and Iran signed their peace plan, violence between Israel and Hezbollah is spiking. Lebanon state media says Israel has carried out one of its heaviest bombardments in recent weeks. Explosions in southern Lebanon overnight. Lebanon's health ministry says at least 18 people were killed. Israel's military says 4 of its soldiers were also killed in one of the deadliest single incidents since the latest escalation began. The IDF says the strikes targeted Hezbollah sites and were carried out in response to repeated ceasefire violations by the militant group. Now, peace talks between the U.S. and Iran are in limbo, even before they started. The next stage of negotiations in Switzerland has been abruptly postponed. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance's entourage was at the airport last night ready to fly to the summit when the trip was suddenly called off. A White House spokesperson says the Americans are looking forward to technical talks as soon as possible. You can hear more national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. Flin Flon hosts Northern Manitoba's longest-running drag show, and the community's finest kings, queens, and monarchs strutted their stuff recently. The community's hosted drag shows every year since 2019, even through COVID, except for last year when fire evacuations canceled the show. Bijou is the event's organizer and MC. She says while Flin Flon is a safe place for 2S LGBTQ plus people, rhetoric against them has surged around the world.
Love the people who are queer in your life, celebrate them, support them, uplift them. It is a dark place in the world right now sometimes, so it is very important to show that you support us.
That show in Flin Flon sold out, and there are already talks of holding a second one later this year. Canadian soccer fans have been doing a lot of cheering.
That goal felt overdue, man! That was awesome!
That was awesome. A historic victory for Team Canada as it won its first ever FIFA Men's World Cup match, defeating Qatar 6-0 in Vancouver. But the win comes with a price. Midfielder Ismail Kone was rushed to hospital with a broken leg after a heavy second-half tackle. Jesse March is Team Canada's head coach.
It happened right in front of the bench. We could all hear it. You know, I knew right away. It was similar to when Tajon got hurt in training. It was right in front of us, and everyone could hear the bones snap. So, you know, your heart goes out to him, and everybody's a little shaken by the whole experience, because of the nature of the injury, and also because Ismail is a big part of the heart of our team. It will be a big loss for us. Let me be clear. The player apologized to Ismail, like came into the dressing room and apologized to him, and Ismail told the team, or let the team know that had happened.
And Kone will undergo surgery, keeping him out of the lineup for Canada's next match. That is against Switzerland. Next Wednesday, we'll all be watching. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
It's going to be a very big and important game, Heather.
Oh, man. I'm so nervous already.
We got a few days to prepare.
Yes, we can do it. I mean, that was a convincing win last night.
Oh, my goodness. It just, like, updates on my phone. It was like, oh, a goal. Oh, another goal. And then add 4 more goals to that. Exactly.
Love it.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Someone else who was watching that game is Abby Adiemi. Abby, how excited were you yesterday?
Very excited. Very, very excited. The fact that they will have to stay in Vancouver to play another game, that was what I was actually looking out for 4 goals, because I was doing a permutation in my head of, score 4 goals and then have a draw in the next match with Switzerland, and you will stay here and stay at the top of the table. But 6 goals just did the magic and just went to the top of the table. So
exactly.
What
all right.
They don't have to travel, because traveling actually impacts the players.
Oh, of course it does. Yeah, traveling's exhausting.
So, you just have to stay put and practice there.
Perfect. You're here to tell us about the weather forecast.
Yes, we have scattered rain showers in the forecast. We have a risk of thunderstorms in the southern part of the province, while the north, we're still dealing with those damp conditions and overcast, and of course, foggy conditions towards the Churchill area. But if we look at conditions here in the city and nearby areas in the Red River Valley region, we're starting Friday cool. We are seeing mostly cloudy conditions outside. Temperatures right now just hovering near 14 degrees at the Forks. We're tracking 11-10 at the airport. The winds will pick up sometime by the midday period. That would bring that showers and that risk of launch out thunderstorms before it clears tonight. And that would be more like that on and off switch, because the rain is going to return again before it clears tomorrow. For the southern region, we also finding pockets of similar conditions across the Pembina Valley, the Westman, the Parkland, the Interlake regions, where values really holding steady with cloudy conditions. We're looking at 11 to 14 degrees right now near the Malden area, and we'll see highs around 14 under cloudy skies. Though we're tracking a high of 18 for some parts of that province with a risk of thunderstorms also. Then if you go west and even further west, Brandon and Dauphin and towards the Russell corridor, we're looking at the morning temperatures around 11 degrees. These areas will face midday showers and a risk of afternoon storms as well. We'll see daytime highs reach 19 for the Westman area and 17 around the Parkland region. Then for the Interlake, where we're seeing much cooler temperatures even into the north central part, we're looking at single digits there, 9 degrees, anticipating 18 alongside with a good chance of showers. Closely mirrors the situation around the Power Flim Flon, where we're seeing temperatures like around 10, 11 at this time, maxing out at 16. And then further north, we're looking at those foggy conditions around the Churchill and York region. Daytime highs would only be around 5 degrees today. So it's more like a damp day, tracking southern thunderstorms and the north, seeing clouds and foggy conditions. Winnipeg 13 right now, and we're tracking a high of 18 later. But you need an umbrella today.
Okay, good reminder. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Abby Adeyemi. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcy Marcusa, joined now by show director May McKillop with a look at the commute.
Good morning, Chloe. I am keeping an eye mainly on construction because I haven't gotten any calls on the commuter line, and I will take that as a good thing at this hour. But some areas with some construction possibly slowing things down this morning along Abanoji-Mikana at the Pembina overpass. Lots of construction along that overpass. If you can, you may want to avoid that area as well. Looking at Academy at Kenaston, from Kenaston just past Tuxedo. Both eastbound and westbound lanes are down to one lane. So I've noticed that's been slowing things down a bit over the last 2 weeks as well. Looking at Nairn at Watt, northbound and southbound Nairn is down to one lane as well. So if you can, those areas, avoid them. Or perhaps you're driving through there and it's actually not too bad. I'd love to hear about that as well. Give me a call on the commuter line. That number to call is 204-788-3093.
All right. Thank you very much, May. Well, Crystalie Ramlakan joins us now with the Business Report. Good morning, Crystalie.
Hey, good morning, Chloe.
Canadians will be able to trade on prediction markets soon. What other details can you tell us?
Yes, so prediction markets that let users wager on real-world events are coming to Canadian investors through Wealthsimple this summer. So the Toronto-based online financial services company says it is beta testing a new app called Wealthsimple Predict that will offer clients access to event contracts through the U.S. prediction market Kalshi. So the launch follows limited approval from Canadian regulators for prediction market trading tied to things like economic indicators, financial markets, and climate trends, but not sports, elections, or pop culture. Andreas Park is a professor of finance at the University of Toronto and says protections will be important.
But there is a small fraction of the population that is very susceptible to gambling addiction, and that's it's a terrible type of addiction. And I think it would be very important that there are safeguards for people like that, right? So cooling off periods, like you cannot make one bet after the next. So every time you had a bet, you need to have a cooling off period so that you're not getting hot. And whatever other mechanisms are there, I'm not a psychologist, not the best person to ask, but I think there needs to be protections for people like that.
Now, Kalshi and Polymarket, the other dominant player in this sector, have experienced explosive growth over the last 2 years. We've definitely talked about them a number of times on this show. And as of April, the two platforms had a combined monthly global trading volume of about $24 billion. But of course, there have been several high-profile suspicious trades on these prediction markets, including a bet made about the capture of former Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. So a U.S. Special Forces soldier has pleaded not guilty, though, on charges he used classified information to place a bet that won more than $400,000.
Next, Crystalie, SpaceX shares have tumbled. What else can you tell us about that?
Yes, so shares of Elon Musk's firm dropped more than 6% yesterday as the post-IPO frenzy that briefly placed it among the top 5 most valuable companies in the world world appeared to fizzle out. So despite the losses, the stock still traded more than 30% above its $135 offering price. And earlier this week, the market capitalization of SpaceX did overtake Amazon and momentarily even surpassed that of Microsoft. But now the average SpaceX buyer post-IPO is almost underwater after a 2-day slide. So the average investor has seen nearly all of their gains disappear after a sharp pullback. And there are reports that SpaceX's bankers are preparing to meet investors as early as next week to discuss a bond offering of at least $20 billion as the newly public company seeks funding for an ambitious and capital-intensive AI expansion. So the company announced on Tuesday it would buy AnySphere, the startup behind the popular AI coding agent Cursor, to try to boost its presence in the lucrative AI tools market. And earlier this year, SpaceX acquired Musk's AI startup, xAI, unifying the entrepreneur's rocket and satellite company with the maker of the Grok chatbot. So the rockets to AI company's valuation surged past $2 trillion following its blockbuster NASDAQ debut last week. Its shares soared in their first 2 days of trading. But as I was saying, that's before giving up some of the gains, as investors kind of assess now whether the company's rich valuation can be justified by its costly AI push.
Lastly here, Crystal Lee, why is the maker of M&Ms spending millions of dollars?
Well, this is for a makeover. So M&M's will mark a milestone in its 85-year history in August, debuting a version without artificial dyes. But, the chocolates will be missing 2 hallmarks, the colors brown and blue. So under pressure from U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his Make America Healthy Again campaign, M&M's maker Mars pledged to offer options for some of its iconic products without artificial dyes this year. And the chocolate giant planned to color the foods with dyes derived from natural sources, but that task is proving much harder and more expensive than it sounds. So Mars researchers figured out how to deliver convincing replicas of its red, orange, and yellow candies using natural ingredients like beets and turmeric, but blue has been a different story. So that color has been arduous to recreate affordably and at scale, and you can blame algae for that. Mars chose spirulina, the high-protein ingredient often touted as a superfood, as a blue substitute, but it's been gumming up the U.S. factories that produce 600 million M&Ms each day. And the company couldn't reliably churn out brown M&Ms either, which it turns out include a fair bit of blue coloring to make that brown color.
Who knew blue and brown were so complicated?
Yeah, I had no idea. But, I guess they've been making these candies for, 85 years one way, and to change it up, proving harder than they thought.
All right, Crystal Lee, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Chloe.
That is Crystal Lee Ramlakan at your CBC Business Desk. Winnipeg musician Kieran West has become a staple of the local prairie sound. This upbeat folk rock song features additional harmonies from folk roots trio Sweet Alibi. Take a listen. This is Kieran West with Daisy Bay.
Well, life around here, no, it ain't been the same. And all we can do now is just pass on your name. Feels like a bad dream. Lasted 22 years. But when I wake up, you won't be drying my tears. Scattering the ashes, and I'm picking up all the pieces, trying to find something when I was with you. I couldn't get enough. And now that you're gone, heart of the dove, who's gonna use these left-handed clubs? Scattering the ashes, and I'm picking up all the pieces, trying to find something that I can believe in. And you know I miss you, and I still want to kiss you. You know that it's true. I don't know what to do. You're so quickly, and it changed everything. And all that I have now is my will to sing. In dead of the winter, now I'm all alone, and all that I need now is just to be home.
Some local music there. That was Kieran West and Sweet Alibi with Daisy Bay. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I'm Chloe Friesen. Coming up next, many would-be Canadians say they are confused and angry after an unexpected move by Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada. Last weekend, the IRCC began suspending a number of Canadian citizenship certificates after people had already applied for and received them. The decision affects some people who received citizenship based on having a Canadian ancestor. The move is linked to Bill C-3, which focuses on citizenship by descent. To learn more, we've reached Audrey Macklin. She's a professor of law and chair in international human rights at the University of Toronto with a focus on immigration and citizenship. Welcome to the show, Audrey.
Thank you.
For a bit of background here, what is Bill C-3 and how did it change some aspects of Canada's immigration policy?
In 2009, the Harper government enacted a new citizenship law that was amongst the most draconian in the world regarding citizenship by descent. If I, as a Canadian citizen, had a child abroad, that child was a Canadian citizen. If that child, in turn, had a child, that grandchild of mine would not be a Canadian citizen. That law was challenged in court under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and the challenge was successful and the law was struck down. Bill C-3 is the government's response to that litigation. It does two things. Going forward, children born after 2025, in the situation I described as my grandchild, would retain Canadian citizenship if their parent had spent 3 years or more in Canada. And that goes on in perpetuity. If the grandchild spends 3 years or more in Canada and has a child abroad, that child will be a Canadian citizen and so on. But retrospectively, for people born before 2025, the new law says that if you have any Canadian ancestor, going back no matter how far, you are a Canadian citizen. And that is the cause, or that is the law whose application is now leading to these citizenship certificates that are being both issued and then clawed back. People who have applied for citizenship based on ancestry, potentially going back over 100, 150 years, they applied, they provided what evidence they could, the evidence was accepted, the citizenship certificates were issued, and then suddenly a couple hundred of them received notices that they have to surrender their citizenship for really undisclosed reasons.
How unusual is that move?
Very unusual. Frankly, these people have been confirmed as citizens. The decision has been made. And now the government is simply trying to cancel that decision. But that's not how law works. If somebody is a citizen of Canada, their citizenship can be revoked, but it has to be done for reasons and by a process that is set down in law. And the reasons are very limited, things like fraud or misrepresentation. And there's a process that requires people to get notice, the reasons for the concern, and an opportunity to be heard. As far as I can tell, and I can only speculate based on the little that has been released, there seems to be no allegation that, for example, these people have committed fraud, that they have forged the evidence that they submitted or anything like that. The impression one gets is that the government has just decided that in light of 80,000 or more applications and evidence that goes back a long time, maybe they want to get more strict or want different kinds of evidence or more, precise evidence. That's something that you might be able to figure out going forward. As you move through this, the government might decide to refine its evidentiary requirements. It's not something that you can do by law after the decision has been reached and the result has been confirmed.
How might a decision like this affect those on the receiving end who are having their certificates revoked?
Well, I expect that they're shocked, as anybody would be. Let me say, if the government was to do something similar in an area that affected Canadian citizens, I think citizens would be outraged, and rightly so. Unfortunately, I think that there is a tendency amongst some to regard immigration or citizenship as some kind of privilege, and therefore the people who are applying for it can be treated in an unfair or arbitrary way because they don't have a right to whatever they're asking for anyway. Legally, that's simply incorrect. But I think that this is the kind of attitude that can lead to this kind of arbitrary treatment.
Audrey, how does this latest issue impact the perception and the reputation of what's widely considered to be an already struggling federal immigration file and minister?
I've been working in this area for 35 years, and this is by far not the first time that the Immigration Department has appeared to treat non-citizens in ways that appear arbitrary and unfair and would be unacceptable if done to citizens. But there's also another dimension to this, which is that the Immigration Department suffers and has long suffered severe resource constraints in the face of mounting need or backlogs. There is a retraction of funding available to them, and there's a cost to efficiency and fairness when you don't have adequate resources to do the job. Most recently, for example, the government has called on every department to slash 20% of their budget in order to fund our military. Well, there's a price that is paid in how well any government department can do its job when its budget is slashed by 20%, and it has something like 80,000, it's made work for itself in the form of 80,000 new applications that it has to deal with. This citizenship law, this ancestry that goes back indefinitely, was not something mandated by the court that struck down the prior law. This was a choice made by the government to adopt an extraordinarily expansive citizenship by descent rule. Having done that, it has an obligation to provide sufficient resources in order to enable the applications to be processed fairly, expeditiously, and not in an arbitrary way.
Before we let you go here, Audrey, where do you think this story goes from here? What are you watching for now?
My concern is if the minister doesn't walk this back, it will certainly be litigated. And litigation is extraordinarily expensive. And if the government decides to defend what it has done, it is going to end up spending a lot of money on litigation, diverting it away from what needs to be done, which is process applications for citizenship. And so I think it would be concerning if the government decides to dig in its heels on this rather than decide to, in fact, expend its resources moving forward, developing a process in a fair and transparent way to enable the fair and expeditious processing of those remaining applications.
Audrey, I really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Audrey Macklin is a professor of law and chair in international human rights at the University of Toronto with a focus on immigration and citizenship. Well, it is 6:58. Time to turn to news headlines with CBC's Heather Wells.
Good morning. A Winnipeg woman says getting into stable housing changed her life, and she wants others to know help is available. 42-year-old Rachel Okamau couch surfed, stayed in staircases, spent nights on the street, but 8 years ago started getting help from Mama Wichita Center's Win program. We'll hear how that program helped her coming up. And it is Northern Manitoba's longest-running annual drag show. Flin Flon hosted the show recently with local drag kings, queens, and monarchs to a sold-out crowd. It was such a hit, there may be another later this year. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Heather. Stay with us here on Information Radio. We are going to talk about tadpoles, a new queer hockey league, and of course, some bear stories. Stay tuned. World Report is next.
The Current.
Mama, if that's moving up, then I'm moving out.
I'm Rebecca Zanbergen. A growing number of young people are moving in with their parents in this tough economy. But financial experts say a clear plan is key to draw the line between a safety net and enabling financial immaturity. That's coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Kate McKenna in Ottawa. Canadian guns are turning up in some of the most war-ravaged parts of the world. They're ending up in the hands of violent militias accused of war crimes. Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand promised a review after CBC first revealed these weapons were in Sudan. But as Eric Cito from our Visual Investigations team reports, the problem is worse than first thought.
The shocking video shows a young paramilitary Sudanese fighter abusing a captive soldier with a weapon, identified as a Sterling Cross XLCR, a precision sniper rifle manufactured in British Columbia.
This clearly shows that these weapons are playing a role.
Sebastian Vandermeersch is a researcher with open source investigative outlet Bellingcat.
It's one of the most striking examples where we can literally see the fighter holding the Canadian weapon, committing clear abuses.
It's not just Sudan. We tracked the same Canadian guns to Libya, used by an ultra-conservative militia accused of torture and war crimes. And in Yemen, arms dealers who market guns on YouTube and Instagram tell us they were smuggled. So how did these weapons end up there despite sanctions? Wolfram Lacker is a researcher at the German Institute for International and Security Affairs.
I mean, the most plausible source would be the UAE, given that they have been providing significant amounts of weapons to actors in all of these three countries.
The United Arab Emirates did not respond to CBC, but in the past has denied involvement in Sudan and Libya. Whoever it was, Kelsey Gallagher of NGO Project Plowshares says not enough is being done.
If Canada was doing enough, then we wouldn't see a pattern of the illicit diversion of Canadian weapon systems in violation of UN arms embargoes.
Asked for comment, the federal government said arms exports to Sudan are banned, and Canada has made no exceptions to its risk assessment process. The gun manufacturer Sterling Cross did not respond to CBC's request for comment. Eric Cito, CBC News, Toronto.
For more on how our Visual Investigations team tracked this story, read the full report on our website at cbcnews.ca. Intense ground fighting and fresh Israeli airstrikes in southern Lebanon have killed at least 18 people. 4 Israeli soldiers were also killed overnight. The sudden flare-up has completely derailed scheduled peace talks in Switzerland. Both the Iranian delegation and U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance have called off their trips. Mediators are now scrambling to salvage the fragile agreement as Israel and Hezbollah trade blame for violating the ceasefire. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is facing an immediate threat to his leadership this morning. High-profile regional mayor Andy Burnham has won a seat in the British Parliament, clearing a direct path to challenge the Prime Minister. Anna Cunningham has the details from London.
And I do hereby declare that Andy Burnham is duly elected.
Andy Burnham winning the Makerfield riding in northwestern England overnight.
People here have voted for change.
It was a reversal of trend. Britons not voting in the populist hard-right Reform Party as they had done in recent local elections.
Shows that you can beat hate and division and anger and despair,
says Burnham's parliamentary colleague Lisa Nandy. But this is not about one MP. It's really about the top job in British politics. Burnham making it no secret that he is ready to challenge the Prime Minister and party leader Keir Starmer. Surveys suggest Starmer is now the most unpopular British Prime Minister ever.
To everything there is a season, and I think right now we need a transition to something new,
believes Labour MP Patrick Hurley. After 14 years of British Conservative rule, Labour supporters had hope in July 2024. But a number of policy U-turns and questions about Starmer's judgment, including giving Peter Mandelson, a friend of Jeffrey Epstein's, the job of UK ambassador to the US, has dampened all that. Starmer, fresh from the G7, remains defiant.
If there is a contest, then yes, I will run, I will stand, and I've said repeatedly, I'm not going to walk away from that.
This is now a waiting game, and no one is quite sure if the door to number 10 Downing Street remains firmly shut to a new Prime Minister or now slightly ajar. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
We're expecting a decision today in the sexual assault trial of Canadian businessman Frank Stronach. The 93-year-old initially faced charges spanning decades, but over the course of the trial, a number of those counts were dropped. Still, Stronach faces 5 remaining charges related to 3 accusers. The CBC's Jamie Strachan is following the case.
When the trial of Frank Stronach began in February, the founder of the auto parts giant Magna International was facing 12 counts related to 7 female complainants, including sexual assault. By the time it concluded months later, only 5 charges related to 3 women remained. All 7 complainants testified, and although most told similar stories, their credibility and memory was challenged under often blistering cross-examination by Stronach's lawyer. The charges in this case date back 50 years, spanning from 1977 to 1990, a major factor, says lawyer Linda O'Brien, who has been watching the case.
Blurry memories, faded memories, not remembering exactly what happens, because at no point during a sexual assault is the complainant thinking, I'm going to be cross-examined on this someday, I better remember this point and that point.
Over the course of the trial, the Crown withdrew a number of charges, acknowledging they couldn't be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Meanwhile, Justice Anne Malloy said near the end she would be finding Stronach not guilty on 2 charges. Much of this should have been anticipated, says lawyer Adam Weisberg, who has also been following the case.
The role of the Crown Attorney is to constantly assess the case for a reasonable prospect of conviction. In this case, it seems, though, there's problems with several of the witnesses, some of which had to have been foreseen in some way.
Stronach was in court every day during the trial but did not testify. Regardless of Justice Malloy's decision, Stronach is set to face another sexual assault trial next year involving 6 complainants. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
National Indigenous Peoples Day is this Sunday, and for Labrador's Innu community, the lead-up to the day is being marred by a dispute with the province. An argument over the nation's history has led to the cancellation of a cultural exhibit of ancestral objects. The CBC's Andrea Maguire has more.
That was a very strong slap-in-the-face message.
Shahajit Innu First Nation Chief Eugene Hart says the Newfoundland and Labrador provincial government owes the Innu of Labrador an apology after questioning the Innu's knowledge of their own history.
It shouldn't be this way. We were actually doing plans for Indigenous Day, and this message came in.
The dispute concerns a new exhibition of Innu artifacts slated to open on National Indigenous Peoples Day. The province wanted the exhibit to say Innu lived in Labrador for just 300 years, at odds with an exhibit timeline pointing to a presence of thousands of years. Jody Ashini is Innu Nation's cultural guardian.
They really backed me in a corner and told me we can't display our timeline. It went against everything that Innu people have believed.
On Wednesday, Innu Nation announced the exhibit was cancelled. That organization represents the Innu of Labrador. Grand Chief Simon Pokaway accused the province of erasing Innu history.
Archaeology is seldom something that gives you very sharply defined lines
of truth and falsehood.
Anthony Jenkinson, an archaeologist living in Shahajid, is surprised by the province's position, since there is no clear academic consensus.
A lot of it has to do with interpretation.
CBC has sent numerous requests for comment to the Newfoundland and Labrador government. They did not reply by our deadline. Andrea McGuire, CBC News, Shahajid, Labrador.
The WHO says 75 healthcare workers have now been infected with Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo. On the ground, Dr. Marie-Roseline Belizaire says the human toll on frontline staff is devastating.
At the starting of the outbreak, healthcare workers were the first to be infected. And when they're explaining to you how they live it, how they were infected, it's really, you can break your heart.
International medical teams from China and Uganda are now deploying to the region to help. And finally, Team Canada has clinched a historic first victory at the Men's FIFA World Cup, thumping Qatar 6-0 in Vancouver. But the dynamic win came with a devastating blow for the squad. Midfielder Ismail Kone was rushed to the hospital with a broken leg after a heavy second-half tackle. Speaking after the match, Canadian head coach Jesse Marsh said the team knew the severity of the injury immediately.
And everyone could hear the bone snap. So, you know, your heart goes out to them, and everybody's a little shaken by the whole experience because of the nature of the injury, and also because Ismail is a big part of the heart of our team. It will be a big loss for us.
Head coach Jesse Marsh says Kone is now preparing for surgery in a Vancouver hospital. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Kate McKenna. This is CBC News. Thanks, guys.
Morning, Manitoba. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in this morning for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on our YouTube live stream or anywhere on your CBC News app. Coming up on the show, the RCMP recently seized $3 million in contraband cigarettes in southeastern Manitoba. An expert says this industry is only continuing to grow and it's fueling organized crime in Canada. Also, we'll learn about a new hockey league providing a space for Winnipeg's queer community and its allies.
The ideal is that we wouldn't have to have queer leagues. We would just have leagues and queer people can play in them. But until then, we do have to carve out these spaces for ourselves in order to keep ourselves safe.
That conversation is coming up. And there are finally tadpoles in the marsh. Coming up, Katrina Fraze will update us on the Fort White Alive pond sample. It's time now for news headlines with Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, CBC News has learned of 27 reported serious adverse reactions in plasma donors this decade. Health Canada data shows almost all were at for-profit centres currently run by Grifols. Now, Grifols is the company that was involved where those 3 deaths happened in this province. We're going to hear more from Andrew Longhurst, who is a senior researcher at the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. A Winnipeg woman says getting into stable housing changed her life. 42-year-old Rachel Okamau couch surfed. She stayed in staircases and spent nights on the street. But about 8 years ago, she started getting help from the Mama Wichita Center's Weechi Win program. She even stopped drinking and is now working casually. We'll hear more of her story in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Heather. That is CBC's Heather Wells. Hello and good morning to our Information Radio team. Darren Morash is our YouTube live stream producer, and Abby Adiemi is our technical producer, and he's here with a look at the forecast. Hi, Abby.
Yeah, good morning, Chloe. We're looking at a cool start to your Friday. The province seeing a mixed bag of conditions. Rainy weather will be spreading across parts of northern and southern storms potential. Also, as we get into the weekend, we're looking at here in Winnipeg, starting mostly cloudy, some sun peeking through those cloudy skies. Temperatures still hovering near 14 degrees for now. Expect gusty winds and a good chance of afternoon thunderstorms as you climb towards your afternoon lunch break period. We'll climb to a high of 18 later. Then we'll see something like on and off showers into the overnight period before we see those sunny conditions for Saturday and Sunday. And that's the similar conditions across the south. Cloudy damp conditions, temperatures hovering near 13 for the south, while up north we're still seeing light rain, some drizzle, some cool temperatures, single digits as you travel towards Lynn Lake, Thompson, Tudula Lake and Churchill at 3 degrees right now. Winnipeg, we're looking at 13, aiming for a high of 18 today, and some showers on the way in the afternoon.
All right. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Joining me now is show director May McKillop with an update on the commute. Good morning.
Good morning, Chloe. Not too much to update on. There has been one call on the commuter line in the last hour. Down on a bike called from the Rapid Transit Trail on his bike, and he wanted to let the listeners know about Bonnycastle Park on Assiniboine, where Bike Winnipeg is hosting their coffee outside, handing out free coffee to commuters. That's from 7 to 9 today. That's all I'm hearing about so far. You know, some typical summer construction going on for sure. If there's any problematic areas, give me a call and I can pass that message along. The number to call is 204-788-3093.
Well, it has been a couple of weeks since we checked in at the Fort White Pond. Last time we checked in, there was a lot of life, but it was taking a while for some common creatures to show up due to the cold weather we experienced this spring. Today, Fort White's education manager, Katrina Fraze, is back with an update on what's changed since things started warming up and how all the water from the rainfall affected the pond's ecosystem. Good morning, Katrina.
Good morning.
Good morning. You are there. You are at the marsh. What's in the water right now? What are you seeing?
Well, it's pretty busy in the water. We've got lots of different kinds of insects and vertebrates. And like you said, we did find some tadpoles as well. So when I take a scoop of water, I just see a lot more living things in there. A lot of the same ones we talked about on our other visits. We've got caddisflies. We've got some new ones now that would have been there, but were quite small. One of my favorite ones is the damselfly nymphs that we're seeing. So damselflies are like smaller cousins of the dragonflies, and they're emerging right now and starting to eat some of those insects, like mosquitoes. So.
Oh, we love that. Does mid-June feel a little bit late to have tadpoles still?
No, actually, it's. So in terms of our springs here in Manitoba, as we know, they can vary quite widely in terms of how warm they get and how soon. So the two tadpoles that we see commonly in our ponds here at Fort White are the leopard frog and the wood frog tadpoles. And both of those species can lay their eggs as early April, but up to the end of May. So we're seeing tadpoles now, and honestly, I probably missed some earlier because they were probably a little bit small. But the one that I was able to catch yesterday is a leopard frog tadpole, and it's already about 3 to 4 inches long. So
wow.
It's they're getting pretty big. Yeah.
And how long will it take for that size of tadpole to turn into a frog?
So for leopard frogs, from egg to frog can take up to 3 months. So,
really?
So it's a long journey for them, but we should be seeing some froglets by mid to late July, depending on how late the spring started for them.
I feel like
the wood frogs should be around a little earlier.
Gotcha.
So.
I feel like in my mind, in my childhood, I would look at one of those diagrams of the egg, the tadpole, the frog, pardon me. And it was something that I thought happened in like a week. So it's right. Really good to know that it's a lot longer than that.
Takes them some time. There are some insects that might take about a week, but yeah, it takes them a while. And it's really neat. If you scoop one up, you see the back legs grow first. And then a little while later, then the front legs start to grow.
Oh, that's awesome. Did the rain that we got last week affect the pond at all?
So we're pretty fortunate here at Fort White Alive with that storm. I know many places had a lot more damage. So we definitely had more water come through. I think we had just over 70 millimeters of rain. But our ponds all have flow-through systems. They go down into our lakes here, and our lakes were below or at average capacity. So we actually needed the recharge for our lakes. In terms of the living things in the pond, they're appreciating maybe a little bit more food from the shorelines that's washed in. But yeah, not too much impact.
Okay. What kind of changes in the pond do you expect to see over the summer?
So what's happened over the last few weeks and will continue to happen over the summer is just the amount of plant life that we have growing in the pond is continuing to get more abundant. So we have plants growing up from underneath. On the surface, now we have a lot of duckweed floating. And so we'll see more of that develop. And then around the edges of the shoreline, our cattails are really starting to grow and other types of plants around. So we'll see those get taller, and those, of course, provide habitat for different types of birds and other animals to live in. So, yeah, so we'll see that.
Outside of the marsh, I know just in my travels around the city even, so many teenage Canadian geese, would you call them? Are you seeing the same thing at Fort White?
Yeah, I do like to call them teenagers as well. So, yeah, they're just kind of in that awkward stage. Walking around. So they're continuing to grow and we'll have them all summer. The parents and the adult Canada geese right now, they're molting their flight feathers and they'll be flightless pretty soon if they haven't already got to that state, and they won't be able to fly again for about 3 to 4 weeks. So you'll see a lot of geese just walking around rather than flying around for the next little while. Interesting. Katrina, if people come and visit, what do you recommend that they really focus on or look for? So just enjoy nature if you come down to Fort White. There's lots of little spots to stop along the trail and watch for birds, other wildlife around the ponds. We have so many painted turtles, and they're always just sitting along the shoreline on a sunny day, enjoying the sun. So I encourage you to look for them. And then my favorite are the dragonflies and the damselflies. So we're really getting an emergence right now of the smaller dragonflies and damselflies. But if you come a bit more into July, you'll start to see the really large, big black and blue darner dragonflies start to emerge. And we're thankful for them because they help to munch on some of those insects that like to bite us. So we're looking forward to seeing more of them. Katrina, thank you for joining us. Really excited for your next update. I'm excited to hear about some froglets. Yes, great. That is Katrina Fraze, the education manager at Fort White Alive.
On the topics that matter, your voice should be heard.
It looks like this is maybe a one-day blip when farmers across the province need hot and dry.
Radio Noon is where you can voice your take.
In general, it's harder to find a job even if you're educated.
I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. From 12:15 to 1 p.m., Radio Noon opens the phone lines on one important topic.
When I was 5 or 6, my parents gave me seeds and helped me plant them. That was probably close to 70 years ago. And here I am still gardening.
It just brings everyone together. Radio Noon's call-in segment, 204-780-0893. We want to hear from you weekdays on CBC.
7:21, you're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. 4 down, 6 to go. 10 lucky winners will be off to see the Sea Bears on June 30th. Could you be next? Stay tuned for contest details at 7:45. But first, the Polaris Prize long list has been revealed, and there is some excellent Manitoba representation. Winnipeg rapper and singer Jay Wood is one of the 40 nominees. Take a listen. Jay Wood with Palma-Wise.
When I slow down and I'm looking right back at you, gotta think, what did I do? Promise to you, dedication, a motivation, it's true. And I'm sorry for the things that I put you through. What is on your mind? 'Cause I'm always writing clouds in my head. One of these days we'll find a way to use our mouth instead. Falling out the lights, you drive the world around the list, the feelings that you buy. And all these late nights, it seems to trickle out. struggle for a better end. Maybe I don't deserve love cause I hurt people. Too scared to look to the truth or true evil. Some kiss can evil, fast track the now. Jumping through hoops when things are on fire. Watch your life through the palm trees. I could play another home, finally yellow please no I don't wanna. I'm just playing, what's the use of just staying away? Just to think about it again in the day. The blues and greens flow so vividly. Opening the smelling in his face, giving me life. So I need to change, I just need to change something. I don't need to change, I just need to change.
Palma-Wise by Jay Wood here on Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Well, it is time to turn to sports news with Scott Regehr. Hey, Scott.
Good morning, Chloe.
It was a soccer game last night that won't soon be forgotten. Take us through this big World Cup win.
Well, since it felt more like an epic bit of cinema, Chloe, than a mere footy match, I'll break it down into parts. The game itself was never in doubt. Canada scored early and often, en route to a 6-0 demolition of Qatar. Now, for a country that's been criticized for not being able to put the ball in the back of the net, especially top striker Jonathan David of late, this was a big relief. David had half of Canada's goals and became the first player outside of Europe and South America to net a hat-trick at a World Cup game since 1930. Teammate Stefan Eustáquio shared his thoughts on David's achievement.
I know what Johnny can give us. Obviously, he didn't have his best performance in the last game, but if you see now, probably the MVP of the game. And that's just Johnny, the quality he has. He can make things shine for us. So I'm very happy that he's back, and it's a very big booster for us.
Boost for everyone watching as well. Remember, in Canada's World Cup opener against the Bosnians, David was subbed off after just an hour because he was so ineffective. Linked with a move to several top European clubs this summer, online chatter after that performance suggested interest in acquiring David would fade. Many on social media even suggested he not be a starter last night against Qatar. How do you like them apples? His hat-trick was the first by a player from a host nation at a World Cup since Jeff Hurst for England in 1966. Incredible.
History making in so many ways.
Yep.
Scott, as positive as Canada's performance was, the game will be remembered just as much for a gruesome injury.
Yeah, involving Ismail Kone. Early in the second half, Chloe, Qatar's Asim Madibo hacked Kone down from behind. That happened right in front of the Canadian bench where Coach Jesse Marsh said he could hear Kone's leg break. The 54,000 on hand in Vancouver went quiet as Kone's teammates circled around him to give him some privacy with the world's eyes watching. Down by several goals at that point, and now down 2 men after Madiba was red-carded, the Qataris started disputing the card. Here's Marsh.
The player apologized to Ismail, came into the dressing room and apologized to him. So I don't think that he meant such a gruesome tackle. I don't fault him for that, but I don't understand a reaction from their entire bench to try to start a fight about it being a red card when a clear foul just happened that broke a player's leg. Strange behavior, but in the end, we were more focused on Ismail in the match.
Kone was stretchered off the field, Chloe, where he actually raised his hand to wave to the sellout crowd, most of whom were on their feet chanting his name. After the match, Kone's teammates visited him in hospital, including Tejan Buchanan, Moise Bombito, and Maxime Crepeau, all of whom have also broken their legs in the past few years.
Oh my gosh. How big of a loss is this for Canada as it moves forward in the tournament?
Massive. Kone, Chloe, was the country's best player against the Bosnians. He's a midfielder with speed and ball control who can dictate the flow of play. Canada doesn't really have anyone who can replace that skill set. Alphonso Davies, he might be coming back soon, but he's more on the flanks. All of this said, Kone's absence from the rest of the World Cup has given his teammates even more to play for, and they were already playing for a good deal with much of the country watching them, including the Prime Minister. Mark Carney addressed the players in the dressing room after the game was done. He touched on how Nathan Saliba subbed in for his close friend Kone, immediately scored an exquisite free kick, and then went and got Kone's jersey from the sideline and held it up for the fans. Carney went on to say this.
It's in moments like that that you see character. You didn't just break the CONCACAF record and a bunch of records, but you showed a level of character that some people never achieve in their life. And you showed it when the entire country and a good part of the world is watching. And if they didn't watch, they will have watched. I couldn't be prouder as a Canadian. And on behalf of all Canadians, I want to thank you for everything you put in.
Hear, hear. Next up for Canada, Wednesday, they'll play against Switzerland. A draw there, enough to win their group. Great stuff.
Very exciting. Scott, thank you.
You betcha.
That is Scott Regehr with CBC Sports. It's time now for your CBC local news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is 14 degrees, becoming cloudy, and there's a good chance those clouds will bring some rain. Showers expected, risk of a thunderstorm as well. A north wind keeping us to a cool high of 18. A Winnipeg woman says getting into stable housing changed her life, and she wants others to know help is available. 42-year-old Rachel Okamau couch surfed, stayed in staircases, and spent nights on the street. Around 8 years ago, she started getting help from the Mama Wichita Center's Weechi Win program. She stopped drinking once she was housed.
Well, I was relieved that I didn't have to go out no more. I felt safe to come home, and that's where I just decided to stop drinking and just stay home. I actually had a place.
Okamau now works casually. She has a family of her own. The Mama Wichita Center is trying to help 30 to 50 people every week find housing. The organization says the number has increased year over year. CBC News has learned of 27 reported serious adverse reactions in plasma donors this decade. Health Canada data shows almost all were at for-profit centres currently run by Grifols. This comes after 3 previously reported deaths in Manitoba. 2 were at Grifols locations in October 2025 and January 2026. A third person died in June 2018 after donating at ProMedic Plasma Resources, which since has been acquired by Grifols. Andrew Longhurst is a senior researcher at the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives.
We have a federal government incredibly reluctant to address issues when they involve a large private for-profit multinational. And so I think moving forward, we need to see proactive disclosure so that there is complete transparency involving issues that arise in this very vulnerable sector.
On top of the 3 deaths in Manitoba, 24 others were left in life-threatening condition, hospitalized, or needing other medical intervention. Peace talks between the U.S. and Iran are in limbo. Before they even started, the next stage of negotiations in Switzerland has been abruptly postponed. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance's entourage was at the airport last night ready to fly to the summit when the trip was suddenly called off. A White House spokesperson says the Americans are looking forward to technical talks as soon as possible, but the logistics of these negotiations have never been simple or predictable. You can hear more national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. Sand mining company CO Silica says it believes the province can review its new license application. At the same time, it plans a public inquiry into efforts to push through an earlier one. Manitoba's ethics commissioner determined former PC government tried to get CO Silica's first license application approved after the party lost the 2023 election. Premier Wab Kinew then called a public inquiry. Now, at the same time, the province is considering a second license application from CO Silica. Carla Devlin is CO Silica's president.
Our application is in process and it's under review.
and that would be a predetermined decision. We hope that the process runs fairly and that a decision is made based on the science and the engineering.
Canoe's office says the decision on the new license application will be based on science. Well, it's Northern Manitoba's longest-running annual drag show. Flin Flon hosted a show recently with local drag kings, queens, and monarchs to a sold-out crowd. The community started hosting the shows in 2019, continuing through COVID. Last summer's community evacuation canceled the show, but it returned in time for Pride Month this year. Performer Virgo Moan is originally from Flin Flon.
The community has been super welcoming. They're super encouraging. People live for the experience. They live for the theater. They live for the productions. They live for the art. And you don't normally get that in other small towns, so it's nice to come back to a place like Flin Flon and feel supported and welcomed.
Flin Flon may host a second show this fall. Well, Canadian soccer fans were bursting last night.
It feels great. It's like one of the best feelings you can ever feel.
Coming in as an underdog, nobody really expected Canada to do too much. It's a lot of pride, right?
It's amazing, terrific, mind-blowing.
I've never been to a sporting event like this. It's wild.
You just run out of words after a time. It was a big win for Canada, holding Qatar scoreless 6-0 in Vancouver. It was Canada's first ever win at a FIFA Men's World Cup match. But the win, as we've been telling you through the morning, came with a price. Midfielder Ismail Kone rushed to hospital with a broken leg after a heavy second-half tackle. Jesse March is the head coach.
Your heart goes out to them, and everybody's a little shaken by the whole experience because of the nature of the injury, and also because Ismail is a big part of the heart of our team. It will be a big loss for us.
Kone will undergo surgery, keeping him out of the lineup for the next game, and that is against Switzerland next Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. So something to look forward to. You can also look for more news on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Heather, I was reading some analysis of the game from folks who were there.
Yeah.
And one of the descriptions I loved on our CBC article on CBC Sports is it was just constant applause because goals just kept coming and coming. There was no breaks except for the silence around that injury.
Right.
An extraordinary game in so many ways.
Yeah, you can imagine how could you'd be standing up the whole time,
right?
Yeah, and clapping the whole time.
Fans must be exhausted.
I know, as much as the players. Right?
Exactly. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in for Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us this morning. Abby Adiemi joins us now for a look at the weekend forecast.
Yeah, we're starting the weekend with more of a mix of southern clouds and northern drizzle, as these will be setting the stage for this risk of midday storms coming to most regions. The south will see humid conditions build up to highs near 19, while up north much cooler with temperatures just capping off in the single digits or even the low teens. Here in Winnipeg, we are seeing cool Friday morning, cloudy conditions, the sun peeking through. Temperatures really going to be hovering around 14 degrees this morning. We noticed the winds will pick up at some point by midday. That will bring a good chance of showers and that risk of launch out thunderstorms before clearing tonight, leaving us with a high of 18. That's the situation for most of the regions down south. Currently, it is 13 degrees in Winnipeg.
All right. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
We have no updates on the commute, but if you do see anything out there that is slowing you down, no matter how you get around, call our commuter line. May is here to answer those calls. 204-788-3093. Well, coming up next on Information Radio, a new hockey league in Winnipeg is looking to create a safe space for the queer community. It's called the Prairie Pride Hockey League. It takes inspiration from the rise of the PWHL, other queer sports leagues like Keystone Curling, and other queer leagues around the country. The league's founders wanted to create a space that was accessible, inclusive, and safe. And they're here to tell us about it. Ki Kaguya and Brie Villeneuve are the founders of the leagues and executives. They join me in studio for more. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining us. Ki, can you tell us how this league came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a hockey group chat with a bunch of us, most of us who've never met. We just love hockey. And we all kind of went to the PWHL Winnipeg takeover game. And just with the rise of it and heated rivalry and all of this buzz around hockey and the queer community specifically, we were just like Bree was wondering if there was any like dedicated queer league in the city, and we just did some digging and we hadn't found one. And it's crazy because basically like a lot of the capital cities across Canada have a dedicated queer league. Winnipeg does not, which is crazy because Winnipeg is a huge hockey city. And so we were just kind of jamming late night and we're like, well, how hard could it be? And here we are.
Do you have an answer for that yet? How hard can it be?
Not as hard as we thought, but there are things that we've never considered. So we've finished the front-facing stuff now. So we have a website and we have our social media. So now it's like the internal stuff, like getting together a board of directors and kind of like getting our business structure underway. So like the not as like fun and pretty stuff, but it's still a great time, and like we're learning a lot, and we've spoken to some of the leagues and other organizations around Canada and around the city. So we've gotten a lot of inspiration from them.
Bree, you were asking, is there any queer leagues for hockey in the city? Is this a sport that you play?
No, not actually. I've only recently become a hockey fan in the past few years, so this is a very interesting kind of turn of events where I went from not being a fan to being a fan. I saw the Manitoba Moose first, the Winnipeg Ice. I went to the Jets Pride game, and I became dedicated.
Incredible.
Yeah, and to then see the PWHL takeover game here in the community that was around it, and so many non-traditional hockey fans there and just enjoying themselves and having fun, and Canada Life Centre was like popping off. Yeah, I was like, we need a queer hockey league here.
Key, what about you? What was your previous experience with hockey?
So I became a hockey fan in 2018, but my dad is a huge hockey fan, and so is my mom. But I'm a theater kid. I like work in theater. I'm in the arts. Like I never really was a sports person. But my fiance Robbie is a huge hockey fan, huge sports person, and so he kind of tried to get me into it, but I was not as receptive. And basically, 2018, I was like downtown. I just happened to be walking past a whiteout party on the exact game that like the Jets won. Game 1 of like the Western Conference final. And so when they won, everyone was like cheering, screaming, and like I just got so swept up in the joy of that like I was like, is this community? Like this is amazing. And yeah, I just have been kind of chasing that high ever since, and I kind of found it and I found it tenfold at the PWHL game. It was fantastic.
It took both of you like a little while to get into hockey, maybe not like born and raised fans. Mm-hmm. What do you think the barrier is, or what sort of struggles do queer hockey fans face when trying to get into the league or different leagues, or just exist within that fandom, I'll call it?
Yeah, it's the culture, really. Like, again, like I mentioned previously, Winnipeg is a huge hockey city, but at the same time, with that comes, like, the prevalent hockey culture that exists. And so, like, again, as a arts person, as a theater person, like, I just kind of always assumed that community wasn't for me, and it just never really felt like something that I could break into. And there are just a lot of barriers, like, wanting to start hockey is hard because skates are tough to get. Like if you get rental skates, they're kind of hard, and if you want like real like proper skates adhered to your feet, those are expensive.
It's a very expensive sport.
Hockey gear is expensive. Like it's not a very accessible sport to get into casually. And yeah, just kind of like a lot of like gatekeeping happens sometimes. And so it's nice that we've been able to find this community and like realize how rich and wonderful it is later on. And so that's kind of why we're hoping to let people know that this is an option that is available to them. Because again, prior to 2018, I did not think that this was an option available to me. And I was just I did not know the wonderful community that actually like hockey has.
Bree, what about you when Key was talking about gatekeeping? I saw some nods.
Yeah, I second everything that Key said. That's absolutely kind of how I feel as well. I mean, I was like an athlete growing up, but like coming out as trans in high school, it was very hard to feel connected with that community still. And so it's a space that I eventually ended up leaving, which was really hard. And getting back into like sports, particularly hockey, which is kind of known for its heteronormative culture, it's a bit jarring at times, but I think if you find the right people and the fans to be around, it's a really good space.
Totally.
Like, it's not the NHL that's making hockey for everyone. It's the people that want hockey to be for everyone that is making it for everyone. And I think that's the goal here.
And I know with the PWHL, there's a lot of queer players who are out and queer on these teams. What impact has that had on both of you just for your interaction with the sport?
Oh, it's huge. Like, representation is so important. And again, being an NHL fan first, because the PWHL didn't exist until 3 years ago, the NHL is like one of the major North American sports leagues that hasn't had an out player in its history. And so like being able to see, and then the PWHL comes out guns blazing with like the Montreal Victoire that have like a married couple like playing on the same line together.
The wife line.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, this is what it could be like. Like it's crazy because like when you are so used to the NHL and like the culture around that and the players around that, and then you see the PWHL just come in with just a whole other perspective. Like, it really is just like, it makes you feel safe, and it makes you feel like this is a space that like can accommodate us, and like, why hasn't it been accommodating us this whole time?
I want to talk about response to the league. You made a big announcement. I know that you folks were at Pride talking about it. Bree, what was the reaction like?
Oh, so positive. There's so many people that are rallying around us and reaching out to say, how can we help? How can we volunteer? When is the league starting up? Like, when are we going to play? It's been overwhelming. I mean, and we haven't even reached like the full capacity of, I think, the people we'll meet. So I think it's just going to grow bigger and bigger. And it's so heartwarming to see.
I know that ice time can be a challenge for all ages, all levels of hockey in this city. Is that something that you're discussing? Like, how do you plan to get ice time and plan out a schedule?
Yeah, that is something that we are totally talking about, especially because Bree and I, again, are very new to hockey. And so we haven't played in any rec leagues previously, but one of our third co-founder, Vic Selby, is a big hockey player too. And so he was saying that like he has connections, and it's also just like we want to make sure that we're partnering with rinks and venues that align with our ideas, like potentially having gender neutral change rooms and just again aren't like just viewing us as like another like tenant, but again are like really adhering to the kind of culture and the kind of atmosphere that we want to cultivate.
There is so much to be excited about here. I'm really excited to have you back once things get going. Where can people find more information?
Yeah, we have a website, prairiepridehockey.ca. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook, Prairie Pride Hockey, or Facebook Prairie Pride Hockey League. Our website has our emails, registration form for volunteering and membership, and a bunch of other information as well.
All right. Key, Bree, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks so much for having us.
Key Kagiwa and Bree Villeneuve are the founders and executives of the Prairie Pride Hockey League. And again, to learn more, head to prairiepridehockey.ca. Well, we are continuing with sports. Bill and Michelle were the next set of Manitobans to win tickets to the Winnipeg Sea Bears game on June 30th. And now they have a chance to win a free throw contest live on Information Radio to try and win upgraded VIP seats to that game as well. But they will go to the line with 6 others. Could you be one of them? CBC Manitoba is a proud sponsor of the Celebrate Canada game on June 30th. The Sea Bears face the Saskatoon Mamba in the Canadian Elite Basketball League, or CEBL. And to win tickets, we asked you to tell us a story about a bear. Could be your own story, could be one you heard from a friend, a polar bear, a black bear, maybe your stuffed teddy bear, or a sea bear. You also could share videos. Email your entries to win@cbc.ca or call us at 204-788-3205. Our first today is an email from Maggie Penfield. She wrote, I grew up in Leaf Rapids and I loved being out in a sandy clearing near the woods behind our house. One day, when I was about 9 or 10 years old, I was enjoying having my feet in the sand and digging around when suddenly a natural resources officer appeared with a walkie-talkie. He looked at me and was approaching slowly and said, "Don't run." I knew something was behind me, so I turned and saw a bear sitting about 10 to 15 yards behind me. It continues to say, thinking back, the bear was just sitting in the tall grass and didn't actually seem that interested in me, but instinct took over. I jumped up and bolted towards my house. I'm not sure my feet even touched the ground. Thankfully, the bear did not come after me and was eventually safely relocated. Later on, the natural resources officer came by with my shoes that I left behind in a panic. That has been my only close encounter with a bear, and I hope it stays that way. I'm happy to admire these beautiful creatures from afar. Maggie, thank you for that story. You are one of our winners this morning. And we also got this call.
Hi, this is Angela Ishaka calling from Flin Flon, Manitoba. We have lots of bear stories up here. So we had family coming to visit us from southern Ontario, and from here, of course, the closest accessible airport in Manitoba is Winnipeg. So we drove all the way 8 hours down to Winnipeg to pick up my nephews and my mom, and we brought them back up to Flin Flon, and on the drive we were hoping to see a bear, and of course close to Easterville we got to see a very cute baby black bear, and we stopped so that the kids could see him through the windows. Of course we didn't open the windows, but lots of bears around Flin Flon, and that was my bear story.
Congratulations to Angela and Maggie. You both are today's winners. And as I mentioned, all 10 winners will be invited to hit the basketball court live here on Information Radio on Friday, June 26th, to compete in a free throw competition to decide who is also going to win VIP tickets to the game. So, enter now. Tell us your bear story. You can call and leave a message at 204-788-3205 or email win@cbc.ca. Coming up next on Information Radio, almost half of tobacco sales in Manitoba are contraband. And that number is growing. That's according to Rick Barnum. He's the executive director of the National Coalition Against Contraband Tobacco and the former deputy commissioner of investigations and organized crime with the Ontario Provincial Police. Barnum says the seizure of almost 8 million contraband cigarettes near West Hawk Lake in May, a haul worth just over $3 million, is just a fraction of what is sold in this province every year. Joining me from Barrie, Ontario to talk about this issue is Rick Barnum. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. I mentioned a few numbers there, but just how bad is the issue of contraband cigarettes here in Manitoba?
Well, Manitoba is facing the same issue just about as every province in the country is. So Manitoba's got about a 45% usage rate of contraband tobacco now. So meaning that everybody that's smoking cigarettes in Manitoba, 45% of them are smoking contraband.
How are they accessing them? Like where are they sold? Where are they available?
They're pretty openly available now in most of our country, Manitoba again being no exception. So organized crime have significant networks across our country. So inside of Manitoba, most people think that they're sold at convenience stores, which is not the truth. That does happen occasionally, but most of the time they're sold just on the street. I've seen convenience stores that close up, let's say at 10 o'clock at night. They close the doors, go home for the night, and like minivans have pulled in, opened up the doors, and started selling contraband cigarettes right out of their parking lot. So it is relatively available.
You've also predicted that in 5 years, all tobacco in Canada could be contraband. That's pretty shocking. How could that happen?
Well, we at the coalition, I mean, we've been tracking this issue for quite a few years. We've watched as it's grown significantly. We never used to have issues like 50% usage rate in any province or 45% in Manitoba. And it continues to grow. So there's three main reasons. Number one, the reason contraband tobacco exists in the first place is the huge profit margins. A carton of contraband cigarettes is about $40, $45 a carton. Legal cigarettes over the counter is about 140 or maybe even 150, depending where you are. So that's the number one reason. Number two is organized crime is absolutely taking contraband tobacco as a very serious illicit commodity now that they're selling because of that profit. And people, when they get caught, there's really no significant penalty for that. I've never seen anybody go to jail for selling contraband cigarettes. And the quality is good now. They never used to be that good of quality, but now it's good. So there's a perfect recipe. And I guess lastly, there's been limited legislation and limited change over the years to attack this issue.
Who is making and benefiting from contraband cigarettes? You mentioned organized crime.
Yeah. So even as recent as a month ago in Manitoba, the big police takedown where they arrested cartel members, Hells Angels members, and individuals selling methamphetamine, etc., between Manitoba and Northern Ontario. And lo and behold, there's over 1 million contraband cigarettes seized as well. So what you have now is a clear indication from organized crime groups, not just because of that one incident, but we've had those incidents all across the country now, where it's very clear that organized crime's involved. In this case, it was Hells Angels and cartels. To answer your first part of the question, most contraband's made in southwestern Quebec or southwestern Ontario and shipped out across the country from there.
Rick, when someone buys contraband cigarettes, we know the government loses tax money, but is there a bigger concern?
Well, there's a huge concern. Number one, like you mentioned earlier, the numbers continue to grow. In my opinion, I wish nobody smoked. So number one, stop smoking. Number two, if it's going to continue this way, the government needs to address this issue. They're losing. It's a multi-billion-dollar issue across our country. In Ontario alone, Ernst & Young estimate that the province of Ontario is losing $1.3 billion in tax revenue over a 3-year period. I personally believe that's low. And in Manitoba, the numbers would be lower than that, but absolutely significant loss for the province in tax revenue that, could be used for other things. So we can't continue to let this go the way it is. Legitimate cigarettes are obviously taxed significantly, and that's the difference that creates that price barrier. But that money gets collected and gets to be used for other things. So we can't continue to let the organized crime side take these huge tax dollars that should be in people's pockets and carry on and make those profits.
You mentioned there was the seizure of almost 8 million contraband cigarettes. This was near West Hawk Lake in May. But what else do you think needs to change to curb contraband tobacco sales in Manitoba? What can be done here?
Well, there needs to be a proper investment from government into law enforcement in this realm. I also believe there needs to be some conditions with that investment there's a good model, and that exists in Quebec, where the government funds a significant investment into an organized crime investigative team. That team works on contraband tobacco cases, and now they've added contraband marijuana cases all the time. So that's all they work on. And they've had a significant success story in that province. We could copy that model in Manitoba. And in Quebec right now, for every dollar that the government spends on contraband tobacco investigations, the police are returning about $9 per year, or $9 per dollar, if you will. So it's a huge success story. So the template exists. I just encourage government to look at these options and to invest properly, and they can make a difference.
Rick, I really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Rick Barnum is the Executive Director of the National Coalition Against Contraband Tobacco. Still to come in the next hour of Information Radio, we are going to hear from the mayor of Steinbach, a city that did not qualify for disaster financial assistance after severe floods 2 years in a row. We're going to get the details on that. This comes after much of rural Manitoba was hit by some severe flooding and is being offered, many cities, many municipalities is being offered DFA. So we're going to hear from the mayor of Steinbach, Earl Funk, coming up in the next hour of Information Radio. But now it's time for your CBC Local News headlines.
Good morning. CBC News has learned of 27 reported serious adverse reactions in plasma donors this decade. Health Canada data shows almost half were at for-profit centres currently run by Grifols. The Canadian Museum for Human Rights says an exhibit about displaced Palestinians will go ahead as planned, despite criticism of a potentially one-sided story. That exhibit opens on June 27th, focusing on people affected by the Nakba in 1948. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, we have bumped up a degree, 14 in downtown Winnipeg. We are looking at a high of 18. If you see anything on your commute that you think your fellow commuters need to know about, give us a call, 204-788-3093. Still lots to come on Information Radio. Stay with us. World Report is next.
On cue, Jen Harper had a dream that would mark the beginning of an incredible journey in the beauty industry. Jen will tell you how she turned $500 and a passion for makeup into helping Indigenous people finally be seen in the biggest makeup store in the country.
We have this saying at Cheekbone, we believe representation will save lives.
Q with Tom Power, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Rebecca Zanbergen. A growing number of young people are moving in with their parents in this tough economy. But financial experts say a clear plan is key to draw the line between a safety net and enabling financial immaturity. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Kate McKenna in Ottawa. Canadian guns are turning up in some of the most war-ravaged parts of the world. They're ending up in the hands of violent militias accused of war crimes. Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand promised a review after CBC first revealed these weapons were in Sudan. But as Eric Cito from our Visual Investigations team reports, the problem is worse than first thought.
The shocking video shows a young paramilitary Sudanese fighter abusing a captive soldier with a weapon, identified as a Sterling Cross XLCR, a precision sniper rifle manufactured in British Columbia.
This clearly shows that these weapons are playing a role.
Sebastian Vandermeersch is a researcher with open source investigative outlet Bellingcat.
It's one of the most striking examples where we can literally see the fighter holding the Canadian weapon, committing clear abuses.
It's not just Sudan. We tracked the same Canadian guns to Libya, used by an ultra-conservative militia accused of torture and war crimes. And in Yemen, arms dealers who market guns on YouTube and Instagram tell us they were smuggled. So how did these weapons end up there despite sanctions? Wolfram Lacker is a researcher at the German Institute for International and Security Affairs.
I mean, the most plausible source would be the UAE, given that they have been providing significant amounts of weapons to actors in all of these three countries.
The United Arab Emirates did not respond to CBC, but in the past has denied involvement in Sudan and Libya. Whoever it was, Kelsey Gallagher of NGO Project Plowshares says not enough is being done.
If Canada was doing enough, then we wouldn't see a pattern of the illicit diversion of Canadian weapon systems in violation of UN arms embargoes.
Asked for comment, the federal government said arms exports to Sudan are banned, and Canada has made no exceptions to its risk assessment process. The gun manufacturer Sterling Cross did not respond to CBC's request for comment. Eric Cito, CBC News, Toronto.
For more on how our Visual Investigations team tracked this story, read the full report on our website at cbcnews.ca. Intense ground fighting and fresh Israeli airstrikes in southern Lebanon have killed at least 18 people. 4 Israeli soldiers were also killed overnight. The sudden flare-up has completely derailed scheduled peace talks in Switzerland. Both the Iranian delegation and U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance have called off their trips. Mediators are now scrambling to salvage the fragile agreement as Israel and Hezbollah trade blame for violating the ceasefire. A seismic by-election in the United Kingdom has thrown British politics into chaos this morning.
And I do hereby declare that Andy Burnham is duly elected. Thank you.
High-profile regional mayor Andy Burnham has won a seat in the British Parliament, clearing a direct path to challenge the leadership of Prime Minister Keir Starmer. In his victory speech, Burnham called the result a final turning point for the country.
But it is a chance now
from this result tonight to build a new politics based on unity and hope, turning away from the path that takes us to a divided, dark politics of the kind we see in the United States.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer congratulated Burnham in a written statement this morning, but Starmer is fighting for his political survival, with polls showing Burnham is widely preferred by the British public to take over as leader. The House of Commons has closed for the summer, rising a day early after a frantic final push. Members of Parliament will not return to their seats until the fall. The government passed more than a dozen bills this final week. Janice McGregor joins us now from our Parliamentary Bureau for more. Janice, the end of the sitting saw the Liberals really flex their new majority power. Is that causing concern on the Hill?
Kate, when the story of this Parliament's written, there's going to be two acts, right? The first, where the government had to negotiate with other parties, cut deals, make compromises. It often meant going slow or not getting their agenda through at all. But since the Liberals secured their majority earlier this year, it is a whole new House. The Bloc Québécois House leader yesterday accused the Liberals now of working as if they're the only party. The government expedited, the opposition would say rammed, an awful lot through. And as for complaints that this hurry-up offense compromises the democratic process, Government House Leader Stephen McKinnon's not terribly sympathetic to cries for more time to be spent in debate.
The problem is all of that time gets chewed up with these dilatory and other tactics that the opposition parties like to play. They are frankly games.
Conservatives particularly sensitive to how rarely the Prime Minister's turning up for question period this spring. Opposition Leader Pierre Poilievre vowed to fight on in the final Bear Pit session yesterday.
No, we do not plan a restful summer. We plan all summer long to fight against the Liberal recession, Liberal inflation, the rising Liberal cost of living, and the rising Liberal crime crisis in our streets.
All right. Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
That was the CBC's Janice McGregor joining us from Ottawa. National Indigenous Peoples Day is this Sunday, and for Labrador's Innu community, the lead up to the day is being marred by a dispute with the province. An argument over the nation's history has led to the cancellation of a cultural exhibit of ancestral objects. The CBC's Andrea Maguire has more.
That was a very strong slap-in-the-face message.
Shahajit Innu First Nation Chief Eugene Hart says the Newfoundland and Labrador provincial government owes the Innu of Labrador an apology after questioning the Innu's knowledge of their own history.
It shouldn't be this way. We were actually doing plans for Indigenous Day, and this message came in.
The dispute concerns a new exhibition of Innu artifacts slated to open on National Indigenous Peoples Day. The province wanted the exhibit to say Innu lived in Labrador for just 300 years, at odds with an exhibit timeline pointing to a presence of thousands of years. Jody Ashini is Innu Nation's cultural guardian.
They really backed me in a corner and told me we can't display our timeline. It went against everything that Innu people have believed.
On Wednesday, Innu Nation announced the exhibit was cancelled. That organization represents the Innu of Labrador. Grand Chief Simon Pokaway accused the province of erasing Innu history.
Archaeology is seldom something that gives you very sharply defined lines of truth and falsehood.
Anthony Jenkinson, an archaeologist living in Shahajit, is surprised by the province's position, since there is no clear academic consensus.
A lot of it has to do with interpretation.
CBC has sent numerous requests for comment to the Newfoundland and Labrador government. They did not reply by our deadline. Andrea Maguire, CBC News, Shahajit, Labrador.
A historic 6-0 thrashing of Qatar has given Canada's men's team its first ever FIFA World Cup victory. But the celebration inside BC Place quickly turned into concern. Midfielder Ismail Kone was forced off with a suspected broken leg. Head coach Jesse Marsh says the injury has left the locker room shaken.
And everyone could hear the bones snap. So, you know, your heart goes out to them, and everybody's a little shaken by the whole experience, because of the nature of the injury, and also because Ismail is a big part of the heart of our team. It will be a big loss for us.
Canada now shifts its focus to next Wednesday's massive showdown against Switzerland. But the party is still going strong across the country after a spectacular night on home soil. The CBC's Karen Larson has the details from Vancouver.
I think Canada's going to win the World Cup. I'm just saying.
Winning the entire tournament might be a stretch, but as victories go, Canada's over Qatar was as decisive as it gets.
But guys, 6-0? Come on.
That's right. 6-0, the final score, in front of a frenzied Canadian crowd of 50,000 who turned BC Place Stadium into a roiling sea of red. Sure, Canada wanted, even needed, a win to ensure the best chance of advancing to the knockout stage, but no one would have predicted such a one-sided result.
It was ecstatic. Everyone started doing the wave after the fourth because all the vibes were so good.
It started with Kyle Larin, the hero in Canada's opening draw against Bosnia-Herzegovina, putting the home side up in the 16th minute. Then Jonathan David took over, the Canadian veteran posting a hat trick, 3 goals, feasting on a Qatari side that was down to just 9 men by the end, with 2 players sent off on red cards.
It's historical, obviously. It's our first win ever in a World Cup, and to do it in this fashion, I think, was very good.
But amidst the celebration, despair for midfielder Ismail Kone, taken to hospital with a broken leg resulting from a questionable tackle. With the win, Canada joined Switzerland atop the Group B standings with 4 points apiece. The two nations meet in a showdown to determine the group winner next Wednesday.
We got Switzerland. Come on!
Karen Larson, CBC News, Vancouver.
And finally, we'll end on some breaking news. An Ontario Superior Court justice has found billionaire Frank Stronach guilty on 2 counts in his sexual assault trial. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Kate McKenna. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Chloe Friesen, filling in this morning for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. It is Friday, June 19th. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Coming up on the show, we're hearing from the mayor of Steinbach, a city that did not qualify for disaster financial assistance after severe floods 2 years in a row. He's wondering why his city was left out back then, when Premier Wabkanu announced that DFA will be available for all rural Manitobans impacted by last week's storms. We'll have that story and more coming up on Information Radio. But first, it's time now for news headlines with CBC's Heather Wells.
Good morning. A Winnipeg organization says while a growing number of people are in need of housing, they can't be rushed into a place of their own. The Mama Wichita Center's Wichi-Win program is helping 30 to 50 people every week. We are going to hear from one woman who says her life was changed through that program. And CBC News has learned of 27 reported serious adverse reactions in plasma donors this decade. 27 of them. Health Canada says data shows almost all were at for-profit centers currently run by Grifols. I'll be back with more Manitoba News at 8:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That is CBC's Heather Wells. Well, hello and good morning to the team on the show. Darren Morash is our YouTube live stream producer. Abby Adiemi is our technical producer, also here with a look at your forecast.
A cool and active Friday across the province. Cloudy systems will bring in more like rain to many areas, and a risk of thunderstorms also rolling through the south. And if you look, check conditions right now, you're going to find out Winnipeg happens to be the warm spot in the province at 16 degrees. So we will take it. 16 right now, cloudy outside. We're expecting a breezy condition with afternoon showers and a high of 18 degrees. And across the southern regions from the Westman to the Parkland, the Interlake region, and even the Pembina Valley region, we're looking at a damp stat. Morning temperatures just hovering between 12 and 16 right now, reaching a high of 19 for most of the regions in the south. But up north, much cooler with cloudy conditions. We're seeing 4 in some areas, 7 in some areas, and 11 in some areas. And then tonight, those storms will taper off, leading into much brighter conditions for Saturday and Sunday. But we need to deal with the gust winds today and a good chance of afternoon thunderstorms in the city as we climb towards a high of 18. Right now, it is 16 degrees in the city.
All right. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Joining me now is show director May McKillop. commuter line has been quiet this morning.
It's been so quiet other than a call at 6 a.m. and I'm going to take that as a good sign that there's nothing getting in the way or slowing things down out on the road today, whether you're walking, busing, or biking, driving. However, if that's not the case, I'm standing by. We have about 45 minutes left in the show. Actually, no, about half an hour left in the show. You can give me a call and I can pass that message along. The number to call is 204-788-3093.
Well, people in Steinbach are questioning why they didn't get disaster financial assistance after severe flooding 2 years in a row. The community was hit by torrential rainstorms, which caused flash flooding in 2024 and then again in the fall of 2025. They received no provincial help for flood damage at the time. Premier Wab Kinew recently announced that financial help would be available for all people in rural Manitoba who were affected by last week's flooding after heavy rainstorms. Steinbach City Councillor Susan Penner spoke with CBC News yesterday.
As far as insurance go, it's not so straightforward for people who've been flooded to receive insurance again. For some people, the company won't insure again for floods. In other instances, you can't do more than one claim within a year, and the flood events that happened in Steinbach were within the same year. So it was really challenging for people to get coverage. For me personally, as somebody who's a city councillor and also somebody who was flooded twice, I'm struggling to understand that when the Premier talks about Manitobans and will take care of Manitobans, why that didn't include Manitobans from Steinbach.
The Mayor of Steinbach, Earl Funk, joins us now on the show. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what was your initial reaction to hearing the Premier announce disaster funding after these recent storms?
Well, my initial reaction, I was very happy for the Manitobans that got covered because, nobody, we understand here in Steinbach disaster. We understand when everything is destroyed and you have to rebuild. We get that. And so we were very happy for Manitobans that were suffering because we suffered 2 years in a row. But having said that, where does that leave Steinbach when the Premier is giving the disaster financial assistance to all of rural Manitoba, and they deserve it? I'm glad they got it, but where does that leave Steinbach when we suffered this same event twice, within 1 year of each other? We're looking at, I think it was 5 days short of a year. And that's why many people could not get insurance on the second one because there was not 12 calendar months in between their claims.
We just heard Councillor Susan Penner talking about some of that confusion or desire that this would have been available to Steinbach residents in the past. What are you hearing from other folks who live in the area?
Well, they're saying the same things. Because of the big claim they had in 2024, they were either reduced or they could only get the minimum. They couldn't get the same insurance. Some of them couldn't get insurance at all. Matter of fact, there was one couple in their 70s. They were now using their retirement nest egg, what they put aside for retirement, to rebuild their house.
We've got some footage kind of going through on our YouTube live stream of some of the scenes in Steinbach, both in 2024 and 2025. We are seeing cars with water up to the windows. We're seeing people kayaking and canoeing down streets. Can you remind us, in your own words, what those storms in Steinbach were like last year and the year before?
They were, I think we still, many residents still have PTSD from them. They were horrific. Exactly. When you drive through something and you don't realize how deep it is, your call star is out, you get out of your car and you're in waist deep in water. That is just I don't even know how you can get past that, and that's why we do feel for the other Manitobans, like the Manitobans, all Manitobans across Manitoba that have suffered by rainwaters. And these events are happening more and more. And what I'm hearing from our people is just, we just want to get our help too. That's what our people are looking for. They're They're just looking for something that'll be fair.
I understand that you sent a letter to the province. What did it say?
Well, basically, it's exactly that. We just talked about the Premier's comments that he made about Manitobans and that we have to stand behind them. And we just asked if they could review their decision for Steinbach and that we could reopen our file and also receive some compensation for our devastation.
Back in 2024 and 2025, did Steinbach declare any state of emergency with this flooding?
No, we didn't, but we were very, very close. But we didn't do that. But that's not a requirement of DFA. The fact that the municipality does not have to declare a state of emergency. When we asked for clarification in 2025. That was never given to us as an answer. That the reason we didn't get it is because we did not declare a state of emergency. There were 3 reasons given, but that was not one of them.
How do you hope the province will respond to this letter? What do you want?
Well, you know what? We just want to be partners with the province, and we just want to work together with everyone. And we just hope that they will respond and also take care of Manitobans that are in Steinbach as well.
Is there any sort of ask for retroactive funding?
At this point, we're just asking that our claims could be reopened.
What kind of changes has the city made to improve infrastructure when it gets hit with heavy rain? Is this something that you've been focusing on these last couple of years?
Yes, we have. We've actually basically pulled apart our complete capital plan for this year. And we've been working for the last probably 3 or 4 years. We've been working on oversizing, upsizing much of our wastewater. So we've done much of the main stuff. Now the final pieces that we did, we finally got some funding from the province for it. There was a project that was twinning the main pipe from the last lift station, and that one I think we had applied for funding for 2 or 3 years, and we finally got funding. We got accepted to funding last year, so we will be doing that project this year. We're spending about almost $12 million of capital funds to improve drainage and wastewater capacity. So we're doing a lot. We're doing our part to make sure this doesn't happen again. And we've also got a climate adaptation study that we should be getting back very soon, and that will give us even more projects to do because we will do our part. We just, you know what, we would just like to partner with the province and the federal government and get some help for the devastation that's happened.
Mayor Funk, I really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Earl Funk is the mayor of Steinbach, and now CBC did reach out to the province. In an emailed statement from the Minister of Municipal Relations, Glenn Simard said, quote, "We recognize the significant challenges faced by producers, rural Manitobans, and communities affected by this storm, and we are committed to making sure supports are available for those who need them. Our government is reviewing and strengthening disaster financial assistance to ensure it can better respond to the impacts of extreme weather events. We have already started repairing damaged roads and infrastructure and helping out producers with impacts from the storm. As this work continues, we encourage Manitobans to contact their insurance providers and submit a DFA application." End quote.
Manitoba may have a reputation for being cold and flat, but our podcast isn't. I'm Marcy Marcusa, the warmest host on the prairies. Even when my podcast, This is Manitoba, is exploring some challenging issues. I'm never flat when it comes to holding our leaders to account. Some of those interviews have been called spicy. If you care about this province, check out This is Manitoba, with new episodes dropping every Wednesday.
The time is 8:22. You are listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. Well, let's take it back in time a bit. Toy Story 5 is coming to theaters soon. I believe it's out today, but some experts are predicting the film will bring in more than $1 billion in final global box office receipts. But There was a time when computer animated movies were a novelty. In fact, the original Toy Story is widely credited with legitimizing the technique for mass audiences. Back then, in 1995, the CBC program Future World covered the movie's release. It opens with then CBC host Evan Solomon, who is now Canada's AI minister. Take a listen.
What do you get when you put together Hollywood's top star, Tom Hanks, Hollywood's top animators, Disney, and Silicon Valley's top software man, Steve Jobs? You'll get Toy Story, that's what. Toy Story is the first feature-length, all-computer animated film, and it's not just a technical landmark, it's a bona fide hit. Colin McLean of CBC News went to Pixar Studios, where much of the magic behind Toy Story was created.
Pixar is in the forefront of electronic animation.
Hey, Slinky? Right here, Woody.
Pixar has been working closely with the folks who wrote the book on animation, the Walt Disney Studios, on the first completely computer-generated feature film.
I got a staff meeting, you guys.
None of these characters, sets, or props have ever been touched by a human hand, a pencil, or a paintbrush. There are 77 minutes of animation in Toy Story, and a cast of 76 characters that includes humans, toys, and one angry pooch.
We're at Code Red, Recon Plan, Charlie, execute. Let's move, 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 move.
The images are being built from models, entered into the computer, the animator's big electronic pencil.
As part of the model, you indicate how the character is going to move. We always record the dialogue with the actors before the animation.
Shut up! You shut up! You idiot!
Sheriff, this is no time to panic.
No, this is the perfect time to panic.
After this step, do they start taking on some of the character of the people? I mean, does Woody begin to look or act a little more like Tom Hanks than he did before?
Yeah, in fact, you know, he kind of looks a little like Tom Hanks.
Ow!
Oh, hi, Bo. It was like being on the balls of your feet, you know, and constantly trying to invest in as much motion as possible in an atmosphere where you could not move. So it was like very odd.
He's got one eye here that blinks.
Pixar's 110 state-of-the-art computers ran 24 hours a day for 4 years to make Toy Story.
Red alert! Andy is coming upstairs!
From the CBC archives in 1995, that was a piece from the program Future World, explaining the process behind the creation of the original Toy Story, which was the first feature-length, all-computer animated film. The 5th installment in the franchise comes out today. Well, we can't talk about Toy Story without playing this song, Randy Newman with You've Got a Friend in Me.
You've got a friend in me. You've got a friend in me. When the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed, you just remember what your old past said. Boy, you got a friend in me. Yeah, you got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. You got trouble, and I got them too. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. We stick together, see it through, 'cause you've got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. Some other folks might be a little bit smarter than I am, big and stronger too, maybe, but none of them will ever love you the way I do. It's me and you, boy, and as the years go by, our friendship will never die. You're gonna see it's our destiny. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me.
Randy Newman with You've Got a Friend in Me. We play that because today, Toy Story 5 comes out. The original Toy Story came out in 1995, and it was the first feature-length all-computer animated film. My, how things have changed. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. I'm Chloe Friesen. Well, before we get to your CBC local news, a few shout-outs to the team who helped put together today's show. For our associate producers, Sierra Sanders, Mary Big George, Dura McElwraith, and Michaela Van Kooten. Our news team, Aaron Broman, Darren Bernhardt, and Heather Wells. Our YouTube producer is Darren Morash, and hello and thank you to everyone watching on YouTube. Our studio technician is Abby Adiemi, and our show director is May McKillop. Nellie Gonzalez is the show producer for Current Affairs, and Leif Larson is the senior producer of audio. Taking a quick look at some weather conditions here in Winnipeg. We're up to 16 degrees now. We are warming up out there, although not going to get too hot. High of 18, 60% chance of showers this afternoon with the risk of a thunderstorm. Wind becoming north 20, gusting to 40 early this afternoon. So, as Abby mentioned, might be a good idea to pack an umbrella for later in the day. Over the weekend, we're looking at some low 20s for temperatures. Mainly sunny on Saturday, a high of 20. Sunday, sunny skies and a high of 22. So, not looking at much precipitation, but cooler than normal. Monday, cloudy, 30% chance of showers, so we'll see that precipitation chance again, and the high of 19. It's time now for your CBC local news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it is 16 degrees. CBC News has learned of 27 reported serious adverse reactions in plasma donors this decade. Health Canada data shows almost all were at for-profit centres currently run by Grifols. Andrew Longhurst is a senior researcher at the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives.
We have a federal government incredibly reluctant to address issues when they involve a large private for-profit multinational. And so I think moving forward, we need to see proactive disclosure so that there is complete transparency involving issues that arise in this very vulnerable sector.
This comes after 3 previously reported deaths in Manitoba. 2 were at Grifols locations in October 2025 and January 2026. A third person died in June 2018 after donating at Promedic Plasma Resources, which has since been acquired by Grifols. A Winnipeg woman says getting into stable housing changed her life, and she wants others to know help is available. 42-year-old Rachel Okamau couch surfed, stayed in staircases, and spent nights on the street. Around 8 years ago, she started getting help from the Mama Wichita Center's Weechie Win program. She stopped drinking once she was housed.
Well, I was relieved that I didn't have to go out no more. I felt safe to come home, and that's where I just decided to stop drinking and just stay home. I actually had a place.
Okamau now works casually and has a family of her own. The Mama Wichita Center is trying to help 30 to 50 people a week find housing. The organization says the number has increased year over year. An exhibit about displaced Palestinians is set to go ahead at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights in Winnipeg. That is despite criticism over a potential lack of consultation and historical context. The exhibit opens next Saturday. It focuses on people affected by the Nakba. That's when 750,000 Palestinians were forcibly displaced in 1948 during a fight over control of what is now Israel. Jewish groups say it could fuel anti-Semitism by not providing context, like acknowledging the roughly 850,000 Jews who were forced to flee Arab countries in the years after Israel was established. Museum CEO Aisha Khan says the exhibit aims to tell one community's story to create awareness and not to tell the whole history of the period. Sand mining company CO Silica says the province can hold a public inquiry into efforts to push through its first environmental license while the province also considers a second license application. The NDP government rejected CO's first attempt at getting approval for its mining proposal in 2024. It submitted a new proposal last year. That review is underway. At the same time, the province is preparing for a public inquiry into the former PC government's efforts to ram through the earlier application. Carla Devlin is CO Silica's president.
We support the public inquiry process. We're confident that it's going to expose that CO was a victim.
Manitoba's ethics commissioner determined former Premier Heather Stephenson and 2 PC cabinet ministers tried to get CO Silica's first license application approved after the PCs lost the provincial election in 2023. It is Northern Manitoba's longest-running annual drag show. Flin Flon hosted a show recently. The community started to host these shows in 2019 and continued through COVID, although last summer's community evacuation because of the wildfires canceled the show, but it returned in time for Pride Month this year. Performer Virgo Moan is originally from Flin Flon.
The community has been super welcoming. They're super encouraging. People live for the experience. They live for the theater. They live for the productions. They live for the art. And you don't normally get that in other small towns, so it's nice to come back to a place like Flin Flon and feel supported and welcomed.
The community may host a second show this fall. Canadian soccer fans have been doing a lot of cheering.
That goal felt overdue, man! That was awesome!
I just want to play that clip over and over again.
Can we do it? It's so fun.
I love how his voice cracks just at the end there.
He's so excited.
It's like 3 seconds of a big smile. A historic victory last night for Team Canada, winning its first ever FIFA Men's World Cup match, defeating Qatar 6-0 in Vancouver. But that win, as we've been telling you, came with a price. Midfielder Ismail Kone rushed to hospital with a broken leg after a heavy second-half tackle. Canada's next match is next Wednesday against Switzerland. You can find the latest news updated throughout your day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Were you cheering like that, Heather, when you were
watching?
watching?
You know what? There were a lot of high fives. Actually, I have to correct myself. I did a high five with my daughter, and then we just cheered a lot. She refuses high fives from me.
Oh, are you just too aggressive with it, or are you just a really strong high fiver?
I think we both just miss.
Oh, gotcha. It's about
it's one of, unsatisfying.
The target. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Heather. CBC's Heather Wells. Abby Adeyemi with a quick look at your forecast.
Yeah, today we have this active system bringing widespread cloudy conditions. It smells like rain outside already. There's a risk of thunderstorms to the south, while north remains cool and damp. Down south, we see conditions warm up close to 19 degrees. Leading into that 20 that we will get on a Saturday, while up north we're looking at cooler temperatures 4 to 11 degrees. So just unsettle the head. Don't forget, look out for the rain. It's going to come sometime this afternoon, so be prepared for it. Winnipeg right now 16, on our way to 18 under mostly cloudy conditions.
Thank you, Abby. May McKillip with a look at the commute.
Just a quick look ahead reminder for this Sunday. It is the Manitoba Marathon, so expect delays for the marathon routes, and good luck to all the participants.
Thank you very much, May, and thank you everyone for listening to Information Radio. Have an excellent weekend. I'm Chloe Friesen filling in for Marcy Marcusa. The Current is next.